Hello and welcome to Stretch Mufflers.
I wasn't ready for that.
Would you like a lozenge?
Yeah.
That's 20 a day Marlboro Reds when you were young.
When you say when you were young, some of us might still be doing that now. So my bad.
Just can't afford Marlboro Reds anymore.
No.
We are back and we are here to discuss the small event that's happening in Chicago this weekend, AEW's All Out. I am once again joined by Mr. Seddon and Tyler. And how are we on this fine evening?
I'm fine, apart from you got my name wrong.
I was hoping you were going to say it, because if not, I was going to repeatedly do that all the way through the rest of this, just to piss off Chris. If I'm honest.
I'm a figment of Chris. I'm a figment of Lace's imagination. That's it.
Yeah.
You are not your fucking khakis. Wait, does that make me old making that reference now? Yeah. Thanks.
So you say that we're all, of the same age. We're just of the generation gone past where if you wanted to call someone, you had to go to a phone box. Remember them days?
Yeah, I also remember getting in the phone box and it either smelled like piss or the phone was broken. Or both. Usually both.
Or if it didn't, that happened after I'd left it, because I needed a wee. God, we're digressing, but I'm doing it while we're on it. I remember going. It doesn't matter how much money I had on me. I'm reverse charging this call because it's probably to me mother to try and get her to pick me up. Yep. And if my dad answered, I'd just hang up, and then I'd just try it again until my mum finally answered, and I was like, "Mum, come pick us up." The good old days.
So out of retro corner.
But I like it here.
Yes.
It is fun. Reminiscing of the simpler time.
But hey, speaking of retro, some of that applies to AEW.
Does. So Sed, you wanted to start with a mini catch-up of what's been going on since we were last here.
A bit less of what's been going on, but a lot, because a lot's happened, hasn't it, since last we were here? There's been and not just in AEW, in the wrestling world, a lot has happened. An evil tyrant has somewhat lost his evil tyrant role, although he's still making coin, and WWE's pushing back. But we've had new championships, new champions, but there seems to very much be quite the negative spin on what's going on behind the scenes at AEW these days as well. Lots of talk about unhappy talent, some of that spilling over into the ring. We obviously had MJF, since we were last here, do his promo and never to be seen again. And it was really to find out where are all our heads at with AEW, because last time we were here, I think we were all very firmly on the AEW train. But has anyone got off that train since then?
So no, I did jump out after Forbidden Door because I was just.
Oh yeah, so Forbidden Door as well. That happened. I forgot about that as well. I told you a lot had happened.
I was just a bit wrestled out, to be fair. A lot of that stuff with the build going into Forbidden Door was what I don't like about AEW and modern wrestling. Of the lots of people just getting their shit in matches, not selling, and it just being spot fests. And that was really pushed with the Japanese guys coming in, because they literally were doing that because, oh look, these the Japanese guys that do these things, matches that don't have any real purpose, and have your spot fest. And I'm sick of fucking tournaments going to every pay-per-view.
It is a bit of a trope for AEW, isn't it? Because we've got a couple going on in this. We've not just got the Trios Championship, but we've got the Casino Royal ladder match. Yes, the ladder match this time, isn't it? Not the Battle Royal. So yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. Because when we started doing this, I'd stepped back for a couple of weeks, so I was playing catch up. I've been back in since then. I've enjoyed most of it. Yeah, it's still entertaining. I have dropped off watching Rampage now, so I'm only just watching Dynamite because the trouble is, it's kind of the weird Raw SmackDown thing. The main show is Dynamite, but the people I tend to like more are on the other ones, on Rampage, which is annoying. So, but on the whole, I'm not bored of AEW. Again, it's like certain members of the roster, I'm like, yeah, you again. Or you start going, hang on, where's so and so? What's happened there? What's going on here? Kind of thing. And then you start to hear the rumors of the unhappy talent and stuff. So, which has always been a bit of a problem with AEW because their roster is bloated and stacked.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
And to a degree, some of this feels a lot to me like it's almost, if you say it enough, it will become reality. So once that roster did start to get bloated, I think everyone was saying, oh, it's a bit bloated so much, people won't be happy. That I think then those rumors start of so-and-so isn't happy. And then I think they balloon. And again, I think that the big change being Triple H now having a large amount of creative control in WWE, I think a lot of the people who were let go, but really were unhappy where they were, have suddenly seen that there's something over the other side of the fence again now, and maybe that's very tempting for them.
Which is a good thing. Honestly, that's a good thing. You want the competition. We joke about us being old, but we come from the Monday Night Raws era, where the competition was driving really good shows for the most part on both ends. They weren't perfect, believe us, they weren't perfect, but there was that excitement. And when they hit, either show, all three of the shows, ECW as well, could be absolutely amazing. And that's what we kind of want. And hopefully, Vince being gone, and I think he ain't coming back. He's done. He's too old.
He physically can't come back, because if he does, and everything that is being said is true, he turns back up at that company in any official capacity, they will fuck them, because he's broken business laws in the States. So if he comes back in any way, shape, or form, he can still be a stockholder, that's fine. But if he has anything to do with that company now, with all those reports and everything that's come out, because he was paying using company money, which is against federal law, the WWF is gone.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on the the WWE side, I mean, I'm not ready to go back to it yet, because he's still such a major stockholder. I still just feel uncomfortable with it. And let's be honest, there was a very long period of poor quality, and I want to see a very long period of good quality before I'd consider going back. However, to pick up on what you said, Taylor, 100% with you on that. I think the wrestling industry has always been at its strongest when it has strong companies. That spirit of competition, and when you know you're going to get your payday come what may, you don't. Sounds terrible. You're going to phone it in a bit. I think a lot of people, there's only so many people who've got that pride and that drive to really go for it. And so, I think WWE coming strong again is only going to be a good thing for the wrestling industry. But I do think it makes choppy waters for AEW from a publicity standpoint, because it was so easy. Every news outlet of wrestling, be it via YouTube or internet based, they didn't never have to write a story because WWE wrote them for it. And now they need to find those stories potentially elsewhere. And I think AEW is in the target zone at the moment. And I'm not saying it's not true, because I think there's probably a lot of discontent in there, like there is in any workplace. But I think their time in the sun of being the internet wrestling darlings has probably come to an end, and now they're going to have to put that work in to maintain and keep that audience, I think.
The thing with it is, obviously, you're getting stuff coming out that talent are pissed off with their position, the fact that stuff's not getting done, heat between people backstage, and certain people getting punished and others not for stuff that they're doing behind the scenes in AEW. Does make you think that a lot of the people that have been brought in aren't there, or aren't getting what they were told they were meant to be getting, because it's a lot of the people that have come over. Malachi being one of the latest ones that's not happy with what's going on. If reports are being believed that's come out today, that he wants out. He wants out of his contract as soon as possible. These are ex-Fed guys. Are they thinking, right, if I can get out of this, I can go back? Because they're Trips' boys.
Yeah.
Malachi, you've got, we haven't seen Red Dragon in an age.
Well, Fish is gone, isn't he? No.
I was going to say, yeah, we won't see him ever again because Fish left today. His contract expired and they didn't renew it, although unsure as to whether they didn't renew it or he chose not to renew it. But yeah, he's officially left now.
You can see him and Kyle ended up back in the Fed. Whether Adam will go with them, I don't know, because he gets to play with his little boys.
True, but Triple H likes Cole, doesn't he? He saw a big future in him. So Cole to Triple H is sort of a Shawn Michaels figure. So he could be someone that Hunter sees hanging a lot of the future on him. So Cole, out of a lot of these people, is probably one of the people in the best position because he can do. Don't shout at me. He can do the Jeff Jarrett thing of bouncing between the two and actually somehow going further up the card.
Yeah.
Cole probably deserves it more than Jarrett ever did. But I can see him bouncing from AEW back to WWE and doing a Cody. I'm getting almost straight into that main event slot.
I think him and MJF are probably the two AEW wrestlers that both companies would fight for.
Oh yeah,
and yeah, I think that puts them in a great position for earning power. But of course, I mean the one trick for Adam Cole is that closeness with his friends, but it's very hard when someone adds another zero onto that paycheck, isn't it? Of going, I like my friends, but if you said you had to spend 8 hours a day less with your friends for $1 million, I'd probably go, all right,
it's
see
not
you later,
just that.
everyone.
It's like, hey, we'll pay you this much.
Yeah.
We'll put in the title on you. You're going to have this run for this long.
Yeah.
And we're not talking like the much maligned Intercontinental or US. We're talking, here's the world title. You've got a 6-month run with it. You win it at WrestleMania.
And I know, we didn't cover this on the last one, but I love AEW, and I know we've talked offline. The glory days of TNA, loved all that. But I'll be honest, probably since the Monday Night Wars, the wrestling I've liked the most was NXT under Triple H. And I think it's because of what he did with the stories, and not just him, but obviously everyone there, but what he did with the stories, what he did with the characters, and the fact that he let them wrestle a style which I really enjoyed. I know there was some criticism of some of them. Cole being obviously a big one of these, of the let's hit my finisher 8,000 times and let's fit hit. But the whole package when you used to get the takeovers was fantastic. So I think if I am one of the AEW wrestlers who were probably very attracted to AEW because they were getting to be a bit more of a wrestler than what they were going to be in the WWE, seeing that that's probably going to be the way the product leans in WWE with a better budget and a bigger audience, it's going to be really tempting, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, NXT under Triple H has my favorite match of all time, which is Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura. That is one of my favorite matches of all time.
My favorite match of all time as well. That is just heaven to watch, isn't it?
But again, like we're saying, it had a different feel, a different style. And if Triple H can apply that to the main roster, to the main product, again, that revitalizes WWE, which in turn pushes TNA, which in turn pushes AEW. AEW is trying to be WWE but not in the way TNA tried it. TNA tried to copy like the stories and stuff. AEW is doing it in the background. Like they bought Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is going to be like their NXT, which is not bad if they're letting these guys do what they do best. If they can build that firm foundation and build from that, they're in a great position.
Yeah.
It's going to take time and they're going to make mistakes. Look, we all love wrestling. I gravitate to AEW, but it doesn't mean I hate TNA or I hate the Fed. I've watched WWE for years, so I'm just a bit bored of that style because you know what's going to happen. I like AEW because there's new things and different things that I haven't seen before and I get to experience. That's great. I haven't watched TNA, but I don't hear it. I don't hear it being the butt of the jokes like it used to be now. I don't know how good it is. I don't know how bad it is. But if I had the chance to check it out, maybe I'll check it out and find something I like there.
I would say on Impact, it's getting better again. I think something's changed, and I think they're getting it again, and maybe they're finding their feet again, and possibly that stun of 6 years absolute mega decline. They feel like they're coming out the other side. But of course, when you're a company like Impact, and for a lot of the ones that are lower than AEW level, one of the problems is that even if you do hit a good run, you're susceptible to losing a lot of your talent because there are better paydays out there elsewhere. But yeah, I'm not going to say Impact's quite on the rise yet, but certainly it's ticking upward. But maybe we could do a Impact special at some point.
To be fair, to your point, if you want to put it in sports terms or football terms, they're a feeder club. TNA is a feeder. It's like there's the feds here and all that. They feed to the bigger ones. So that is always trouble. It was a problem that ECW had back in the day. They were constantly being raided for their talent. They would get someone who was good.
And when you go back to even using TNA, so when they were really starting to rise, they were using ROH as their feeder.
Yeah.
And then they become the feeder to the WWE. So there was that kind of hierarchical system, wasn't it? And I think when AEW come through, and certainly probably more so because of some of the hiring and firing decisions of Vince, AEW was the other game in town. Whereas I think now that WWE will be looking to hold on to their talent and expand a bit again, it might be tougher sledding for AEW, but that might not be a bad thing because we talk about a bloated roster. Maybe their roster naturally shrinks down a bit and they can focus more on some of those talents.
It'll swap and change when you think about it. I mean, there is names over in WWE that can't be there much longer, and you're going to have younger ones that may want to go. Some of these talents might not even want to wrestle in America anymore. They might want to try their hands in Japan. Then there's plenty of places they can go there to do things. So again, it's ebbs and flows. And the important thing about AEW is I think they've got a solid ground to work from. There's still areas that definitely do need work because I will forever bitch about their women's division still being weak as fuck with great talent.
And I think, unfortunately, probably when we get later on in these predictions, we start doing the matches, that women's roster, or not the women's roster, sorry, the women's booking will come up again, won't it? Because I think it is their biggest hole and their weakest point. And as you say, a shame because I think they have the ability to not have it as weak as they do. But yeah, let's not bury the lead on that one. We'll get to that when we get to interim titles and things of that sort.
So the only other thing I want to bring up of stuff that's happened since we last met. Fuck me, Briscoes and fucking FTR at Ring of Honor.
I've only seen highlights, but what I've seen is jaw-droppingly amazing. And I'm not familiar with the Briscoes at all, but wow. Just wow.
Boys versus boys for me, because I fucking love me FTR. I love me them boys. And how this isn't on the main show in AEW pushing this, don't know. Maybe it's because of a bunch of little dickheads that are running the tag team division. Your boys.
Now, you know how I always jump to the defense of the Bucks? I will say on this one, it's not because of that, is it? It's because of, I can't remember whether it's Mark or Jay, but Mark or Jay released some, let's say, less sensitive things on YouTube videos a number of years ago, and that's why they won't have them on the main roster. Because of Tony Khan's not, and I don't think it was anything so heinous, but in the same way as he had that, I can't remember who it was. Who was it who come on who'd released that video about New World Orders and stuff like that? But Tony Khan really seemed to be very sensitive about what performers have said and that being linked to the company. But that's why the Briscoes are not being used on main roster.
Also
which is a shame because they're amazing. They are amazing, aren't they? They're an amazing tag team.
Haven't they made penance on that and actually came out and apologized for what they said on those videos?
Yeah, but nowadays, look at James Gunn. He was fired from Guardians 3 for tweets he made. decades ago, which he'd already apologized for. I'm not complaining. I got the Suicide Squad out of it, and he's back doing Guardians. So hey, look. But this is the world we live in, where they will beat you with any stick. It doesn't matter if you've already apologized. I've gone, oh, and let's face it, our favorite flat earther is still gainfully employed. So
yeah.
But
But a massive shame, and I think that's probably why that isn't on the card. And I don't know whether, I mean, I always wondered, diverting here, but because we've got 85 matches to get through, but I always wondered whether, and why the Briscoes, and I know there was a lot of loyalty with them and ROH, but why they've never been taken on anywhere else, because they are phenomenal, aren't they? They're brilliant at what they do.
They were given an offer for the Fed.
I think it was a rubbish one, though, wasn't it, from memory?
It wasn't great, and they wouldn't have been able to keep up their farm, because obviously the gimmick of them being farm boys is not a gimmick. They really
live in and breathe in their gimmick, yeah.
They really do run a tobacco and livestock farm, and they needed to work around the fact that they can go off and do weekends, but they need to be at home during the week to tend to the farm. And the Fed wanting them on a full-time contract in Orlando because they wanted to put them through NXT, and they're like, well, no, we're not giving the farm up.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Vince would give them some sort of hillbilly gimmick. They'd be the Godwins 2.0. Ooh.
That's basically what they are, just with more swearing.
They're cool Godwins.
They're cool Godwins. Yeah, they're way better than the Godwins.
Yeah. So, shall we start with the 7,564 matches that have been confirmed for
It's
Sunday
WrestleMania 5 all over again.
I fear if we don't, we'll probably still be recording when the actual event's finished. And P.S. You just said it out loud. I'm just going to put it out there, and so that I can get flamed in the comments. WrestleMania 5, my favourite WrestleMania of all time. But my God, there was far too many matches. My favourite because it was my first WrestleMania. I love it. I can watch it over and over and over and over again. And that main event should have gone the other way. Savage was done dirty.
Wasn't he always?
Yeah.
But Hogan's got a pose. Them's the rules.
Yeah.
So, what have we got on the pre-show, Mr. Seddon? As I see that you got the list up.
Let's go with match number 1, which is recently returned from suspension, Eddie Kingston, against Tomohiro Ishii. So the Stone Pitbull versus the Brooklyn native suspender monkey. That will be, and the way they've got it on the card, it looks like that will be the first one of the pre-show.
See,
that's going to Ishii, isn't it? Kingston's going to be punished.
This is just going to be two lads scrapping in a car park.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm all for this sort of a thing if we don't see it every couple of months with Ishii and Kingston. Because that's basically everything that them two have been up to since the build for Forbidden Door.
I wouldn't have minded this on the main show, but I don't think it was the plans for the main show. I mean, the plans for the main show was Kingston Guevara, wasn't it? But of course, they've kind of had to push that because of But yeah, I think it's almost a shame that this is on the pre-show, and of course, it's still available to us. But when I'm looking at a 11 match card, I may not watch the pre-show on the night. Otherwise, it will feel like some of those long WrestleMania moments. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll be a slugfest, won't it? And I think that probably, this is going to be Kingston's penance to a bit, isn't it? I think they're going to say, right, just take your shots, so that the boys in the back realise that you are willing to sort of make amends and be punished for something. So poor silly Eddie Kingston. I wish he could get out of the way of himself.
So, but what the rumours are coming out that Sammy was the dick that started it.
That wouldn't be a surprise, but Eddie's the type of guy that will be the poor bastard that gets punished for it. Yeah, I like Eddie a lot.
He's the one that was right to the issue.
And for a lot of years, when I would find any indie wrestling company that I could, and I do like watching kind of stuff from the indie wrestling companies, and of course you'd see Kingston do a lot of the A lot of them, especially when he did Chikara, and I love Chikara. But Kingston has been fantastic for me wherever he's gone. I don't think I've ever seen him as an act. I don't think I've ever seen him be bad. But I think he's just one of those human beings who has problems. I think interacting in large groups of people for a long period of time, and I think that Sammy said some things that obviously Eddie wasn't happy about, but if rumours are to be believed, that they had at least a degree of discussion, and he said no, nothing's off the table. But of course, he might not have considered what was going to be put on the table and things like that. But it's a shame because I think it would have been a nice match for both of them if they'd have got on the main card. It would have been a good highlight for both of them. So just a shame that they didn't get on there.
Well, they did it to themselves.
Yeah.
Because one of them's not even on the show.
Yeah. And of course, this added to the boiling pot of backstage unrest, etc., etc. But I don't think in most companies, when you get that many people doing what they're doing, traveling as much as they are, in pain as much as they are, tensions are going to run high. And I hope it's all buried now. I hope they are actually fine. Although I wouldn't be shocked to see Sammy in the WWE in the not too distant future, because he is quite a boy with Cody, isn't he?
Or in a wheelchair.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Some of the shit that he does.
But so we all going for Tomohiro here. We all plumping for that.
I genuinely think it's Kingston's losing his punishment, but like you said, he made the card, so
yeah.
So what is next on a pre-show?
This one's another one that I am gutted to see on the pre-show, but of course they don't have any room on the main show, and it's Pac and his All Atlantic Championship, which has appeared since last we were here, taking on Kip Sabian.
Tournament.
Yeah, another tournament. Taking on Kip Sabian, which is
Kip's
I would say a long.
returns.
Well, it's kind of a weirdly long running angle, but wasn't really an angle. He was always or often in the crowd with the bag on his head, saying overlooked, but then it kind of exploded in the last couple of weeks to Kip actually being featured more than just in the back of camera shots and things like that. But what do we reckon? Will Pac drop this championship, or is Pac gonna hold on to it?
Well, seeing the fact that Yarko Boy hasn't been around for that long and did nothing when he was first there, was just overshadowed by his hot misses, that it's going to be Pac winning this title that they did so much effort to promote with a tournament that he's not defended since he's had it.
He's defended it around the world. He's gone to other promotions and defended it. So he's gone to places like Rev Pro and defended it on their shows and things like that.
But the thing is, it's not being shown.
Yeah.
It's only briefly mentioned on AEW programming. So you're not giving the core audience the feel that title is valuable.
I think on the show, it's almost a Z level title, isn't it? But I think they are trying to use it. Yeah.
This is my thing of they have way too many fucking belts. They use it as a trope just to do a tournament. And if you're not going to do anything with the belts, what's the fucking point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone gets a belt.
You think I joke, but it is the European title, if you think. Now, there were some good holders of the European title, but you won't remember most of them because they were forgettable. And like I just said, your core audience doesn't know that title, or doesn't think that title has value because it's not being defended on their programming. Great that he's defending it in other places. It is exposure, but you still need to make that title feel important back here in your core.
But... And when you come to a pay-per-view, you'll defend it on the pre-show. And again, that feels kind of bad times of WWE, Intercontinental US title not making the show. And with that in mind, is there any chance Pac drops it then? If it's an unimportant title, is he, or is it time where you transition it onto someone else who could do other shows around there and maybe unleash Pac back into the mix somewhere else?
But where do you release Pac? That's the problem. Not
trios.
House of Black. Not House of Black again.
Yeah, not House of Black again. But trios, you can go to Death Triangle into that. I mean, I'm not saying you do, but I for one would love to see more Pac on the programming because I just think he's amazing in the ring, and I do like Kip Sabian in the ring as well. But I think a title like that, I think it's going to be Pac, but I think a title like that might actually suit Kip Sabian more. I think, even though it's such a low title, I think it elevates Kip more than it elevates Puck, but obviously Puck can actually elevate that title by having it on him. But I would pull for Pac to win this. I just kind of hope that this is Kip Sabian getting a bit more TV time because I do quite like him in the ring.
I don't think he's a bad wrestler, but like we said, he's back. But
yeah,
Lacey hit the nail on the head. Most people remember his hot misses more than him.
Yeah. He never really did anything of any note, did he?
No, I mean, he got quite a bad injury, didn't he? And I think that, well, I mean, we don't know, we weren't booking, but I think that probably held back whatever they were going to do with him on the show. But
I know that during Rona time, he had to come back to the UK. Because he's a local boy, and the Knights were trying to do stuff to get him to turn up for their shows that they were trying to do once they come out of the Rona. Because obviously being from Yargo, so.
Well, there you go. He could be defending the All Atlantic Championship just up the road from you. Wouldn't you want that?
No.
Or in a local pub near you, possibly. Who knows?
That's more likely.
Yeah. I was going to say, speaking of made-up titles, the last match on the pre-show is for the FTW Championship, another title that we have in the company, but an interesting match for me.
It has a real lineage though, this one. Back to ECW and the good old days of Taz versus Sabu, when Sabu wasn't man enough to fight Taz, and Taz had his own belt.
It's old. I'm not entirely sure whether it has a true lineage, but we've got Hook versus Angelo Parker, which I think could be a really good match.
I want Hook to come in, kill, and go, and just be like, fuck you. Because I'm of the minions of the JSA, they're funny in promos, but I just want them to be squashed. Both him and Daddy Magic Mac, Daddy Magic Daddy Mac Magic Daddy Mac.
You've been watching too many crisscross jump videos, Chris, haven't you? That's where you got all of your Daddy Mac Daddies from, wasn't it?
It was.
Yes.
But yeah, no, this is Hook, kill. Less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's traditionally what happens in a Hook match, isn't it? He tends to.
It works so well.
I mean, sorry, you go.
I was going to say, I am a convert to Hook and Danhausen. Those two are just, they're money. And Hook, nothing against Taz. I love Taz from back in the day. Back in the day, Taz was awesome. How is his son that talented?
Because he's clearly got all the good genes of his dad, but his mum must be taller, so he's got the height that his dad never had.
He is fantastic, and he's the person that everything just is right for him, and I can see he is a future world champion. I truly believe that. As long as he stays injury free, doesn't do his necking or anything, he is damn good. And I think this should just be a squash. It should be turn up, squash the JSA with ease, bugger off. Maybe with some tomfoolery from Danhausen.
When do we start seeing him have longer matches? And I'm not saying I think this could be a longer match because I'm not saying that Angelo even gets a ton of offense in, but that's one of the things I'm quite interested now of seeing him more than to squash, because he looks like he's got the skills for me to have, and I'm probably even only going to 6-7 minutes, but 6-7 minutes with a little bit more of the heel getting something in, even if it's by like shit heelery or chicanery. But I think I want to see more Hook now. I think I want to see what he's going to be able to do in the ring going forward. But it's definitely Hook, isn't it? Hook's winning this. There's no doubts about that.
Yeah. I think with Hook getting longer matches, I think for the minute, I think you need to leave him with that Goldberg-esque push.
Hmm.
Just let the character get over of what it is and what he does, which he has. And
helps
the
that
problem
it's
is,
got that most amazing theme tune in AEW at the moment as well. doesn't it?
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, second to FTR, but yeah. But it's that thing of with him, I don't want him in there with some of the spot monkeys because he doesn't need to pick up that bad habit of letting people get their shit in just because they want to get their shit in. And you know, he in an ideal world, I'd have him in there with Cesaro. I'd have there in with Brian, even Yuta, because he seems to be able to get a match in, and he because of he's being hanging around with Regal and stuff. They're explaining to him that this isn't just get your spots in wrestling. If you've got a big bit, yeah, do it if it makes sense. I think you need someone that gets the working part in there with him to do a longer match.
Yeah.
But there's too many people in AEW that have to get their spots in, whether it makes sense or not. That you can't just chuck him in a long match with anyone.
See,
Well,
now,
when Taylor
now
said,
I don't know if I want. I don't know if I want Hook to take on the Blackpool Combat Club or be in it because damn, both of those sound. You know, you just listed Cesaro and Bryant, and the one that got me was Wheeler Yuta. I was like,
yep,
Hook
same
Yuta?
here.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
I want that.
Well, Taylor, when you said future world champion Hook, like I could see, and again, this depends on the path sort of staying there and injuries. I could see at some point in the not too distant, but a bit of a way away, where you've got Utah's, Hooks, and Daniel Garcia's as your top contenders for titles, and those guys being the main events of pay-per-views. And I'm more than happy from what I've seen of them so far to think we might get a future where that's a plausible thing.
And there's another one that you could chuck in with him that could do a decent length match. And if you want him to, if your idea is for Hook to go in against the JSA, Garcia seems to have his head on enough to know what should and shouldn't be done.
Yes,
he doesn't seem to just go in to get his shit in.
He really proved that in that 2 out of 3 Falls match. He was just that was. I don't know if that was just him showing what he can do, or Brian teaching, or what was going on there. But you were watching something special with that match, and it was. I think Brian was showing, "Hey, this guy's got it. This guy knows what he's doing. Put him with me. Let me show everyone what he can do." And I was even impressed. I was genuinely. I hadn't thought much of Garcia until that, and then it was like, "Oh wow, no, I see why people are about this guy." Because wow.
Well, we're not a million miles away from getting there, but I think key, something you said there, is mixing up these younger talents with someone like a Bryan Danielson, because not only is he amazing in the ring, but as you just said, he gets the business. He gets that he needs to make his opponents look good and get the best out of them, because that's how everyone gets paydays. And there aren't that many talents out there that are at his level of ability, and I think his level of understanding the business. But that's why I hope they keep Danielson for a lot longer, purely because I think they've got so many good talents there that, yeah, you want to see him being in the ring with these guys for years to come so they can learn from him. But that for us, from an entertainment standpoint, we also get amazing matches out of it as well.
Oh, yeah.
So let's go into the main show proper.
Well, and
or is there another fucking pre-show match?
No, well, there was now. Before we go on, we are going to go to main show proper. I will say Tony Khan did a press conference, I want to say today, but it might have been late yesterday, where there was suggestions he might add more matches to this card, but I hope not. But on my rundown, I don't think that the main card will necessarily go for this, but it is the first one that's showing up on the main card that I've got in front of me, and we were just talking about him, but this is Bryan Danielson going against Chris Jericho. So, Taylor, do you want to take this one first? Because I've got a feeling that Lacey's going to want a big rant about this. So it'll be interesting to see what you think of this match before we unleash the beast onto it.
Oh, I don't know. This is a tough one, because you know that there's so much going on in this story. Garcia's involved, and you've got Jericho and you've got Danielson. I want to say it's Jericho to win by cheating, and we will see Garcia probably join the Blackpool Combat Club. That's what I'm thinking.
Go on, Lacey, lay into Jericho.
Why does Jericho need to have this match? Just fuck off, Jericho. Just fuck off and do another shitty fucking Fozzy tour and just get gone. Now, if we'd have had a rematch, Garcia and Danielson, be all up for that on pay-per-view. But I don't need to see fucking Jericho doing his fucking bullshit. I know she's dropped being a wizard now, so what's he going to be this time? The puppet master.
He's back to being Lionheart. But quite frankly, all he's doing, he's not changing up anything. He's not being Lionheart, Chris Jericho. No. He wasn't being the Painmaker. I put some really bad crow makeup on.
It's because he's got patents that need to keep in place, and he has to use them every so often to keep the license going on the trademarks. That's probably why he's now calling himself Lionheart again. Oh, cynical me, thinking he's doing it just for money. I know. Who would have thought such a thing? But yeah, no, Jericho, I'm done with Jericho. Thank you for turning up. Thank you for being there to start with and have the big name to start AEW. But get fucked. Because you offer nothing. Your matches are shit. You are just a fucking waste of fucking oxygen on that roster. Your matches are dull as shit all the time. And you ruin people that you're in the ring with. Get lost.
And you're literally repeating what you've already done, because let's face it, the Jericho Appreciation Society is just in a circle, but not as good.
See, I find myself somewhere in between that, because I would much rather see Danielson Garcia, and I'd actually much rather see Garcia Jericho. But this is a step on that path, I think. But it's a big event to have that step on that path. But, I don't mind it because I think it's going to go somewhere. But, I think there were two better matches that they could have had on this card than what we're going to get. But again, I lean into Bryan Danielson. I think Bryan Danielson could wrestle me and probably get close to a 4-star match out of it. So I think, he may well drag it along. And I know what you say about Jericho. And I don't think everything hits with Jericho. And I think sometimes... there is a bit of truth that his ego will trump possibly his position in the business at the moment. But I like the fact that he's there, and I think I like the fact that he gets other talents involved in storylines. I sometimes think, again, that ego takes over and he doesn't let those talents bloom as much as they should. So going back to the Inner Circle, and oh God, I'm a bit scared for what I'm going to say next, but I actually like the Jericho Appreciation Society more than I like the Inner Circle, because I felt like, other than Sam, I feel like Proud and Powerful didn't get anything much out of their Inner Circle days. Hager didn't. Whereas I think in the JS, we're already seeing that Garcia is getting quite a bit out of it. I think 2.0 have actually done. I think their position in the cards much higher than if they weren't in it. So I think this is at least getting some people screen time, although I'm not going to say it's all brilliant, but I don't mind it. But I think that probably
2.0 and Garcia were getting enough screen time before they were on the fucking JAS.
I don't think
pretty much the only people that were on every fucking week on TV.
But I think their standing has been elevated, standing next to him. And I really do. But I know that not everyone feels like that. But I feel like they are not... They might have been good, but I think they were more at jobber level before they were with him. And now, don't get me wrong, they're not a million miles above jobber level, but I feel like you could actually slot them high up in the card at this point, where you couldn't have pre the Jericho Appreciation Society. But yeah, I mean, not everything hits. I don't really... I know this is a prediction show. I'm not really sure which way this is going to go. I would love it to be Garcia ending up with the Blackpool Combat Club, but every fibre of my being feels that this will lean into the sports entertainment side of the JAS storyline, and Garcia will cost Danielson the match, and Jericho will win.
And as
Either
we all
way,
know,
I think
Jericho has to win.
I think either way, it's depending on how it goes. Garcia is probably the biggest winner out of this because if he does something to cost either one, so if he costs Bryant the match, he becomes a mega heel. If he costs Jericho the match, he's going to go face. Either way, he's going to get quite a substantial boost out of this. It's the other two that probably aren't really going to benefit much either way from this because Jericho's going to be Jericho. Bryant's beloved and probably can. Bryant's a heel and people cheer for him to the point where he has to remind people that he's a heel. I came out of that tunnel, so I don't think there's not much there for them. This should be about boosting Garcia.
I do hope it doesn't get
Daniel being there against Jericho.
I hope it doesn't get a ton of time either. I hope it gets 10, 11, and I know Danielson could go for, but I hope they don't book this as a 45-minute ego project for Jericho. I hope they do their stuff, they get in, they get out, because this show's going to be long, and I don't need 30 minutes of this match.
It's Jericho. It's not Triple H. Don't worry. It's going to at least be 10 minutes.
It's got to be 20 in it for Jericho in these day and age.
20 minutes, yeah.
He needs at least 5 minutes from if I can play for his song twice.
Actually, good point. Good point. Right, next up we have the interim women's title. So here we go. I'm sure we're going to touch very much on the women's roster here, but we do have another bit. But we have Toni Storm taking on Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and Hikaru Shida for, as I say, the interim women's title because Thunder Rosa is not fit to fight in storylines. I don't actually know what the injury is in reality or what is going on there, but yes, AEW are putting in an interim champion to be crowned at All Out. Go.
I do know that there are ego issues, and it's not all injury, is why Thunder is not there. This stinks of Britt getting the belt back because, Britt needs to have her belt. I want Jamie Hayter to win it. I can't do Shida. I don't get what's great about her. I don't think Toni Storm's kicked on since she's turned up in AEW. I think she's got worse than she was back in like the Fed days and especially the indie stuff. But can we get rid of having fucking interim titles? If the champion can't have the belt, strip them of the belt and they get the first fucking dibs when they come back.
I think it's just what AEW needs to be different. I think they don't want to do the vacated stuff, so they have the interim. But I'm with Lacey on this. This stinks of Britt. I'm with him. If anyone wins this story-wise, it should be Storm. Interesting wise, Hayter winning it would be far more interesting because then you can have more things happen that way. Shida, I think, is in there to make up the numbers. I like her. She's good, but there's nothing that makes you gravitate towards her. Tony, I can take a leave. Britt, I'm bored of Britt having everything. This was a problem I talked about last time. If it involves Britt Baker, she wins. And it's boring.
See, I would much rather have Serena Deeb in this.
Yeah.
I must admit, I was quite surprised that Deeb didn't get into this because they seem to like her, and I think she would help the match. She's got the talent, she's got the experience, she's got the skill, and I think it would be a good slot to put her in. But
I was partially surprised that Kenny's little wank fantasy wasn't in it, but
who's Kenny's little wank fantasy? Oh, okay. Look, I mean, for me, interim titles. I'm with Taylor on this. I think it's the way that AEW has decided to go. I think they lean heavily into this is how they do it in the UFC, and I'm not saying they're trying to be the UFC, but I think they've kind of gone. We like that as a theory. Don't just strip someone because they're injured, because injuries will happen, because this is wrestling and not sports entertainment. And you wouldn't just necessarily take the title off. And in theory, and we'll get onto this more later when we get to the main event. In theory, it sets up that instantaneous match of when the champ is back, you've got the interim champ to go against the champ for who really is in charge. I think I like all four of them that are in this match. I am not sick of Britt Baker. I think she is amazing as an act. Like, I think there's still some work needed in the ring, but I think as an act, I think she gets it. I think she can do the crowd stuff really well. I like Toni Storm as an in-ring performer, and I think I'm more leaning into the stuff I saw in the Indies. And I think she was a star on the Indies, and I think she can be a star in a promotion. I think she just needs that momentum behind her. Shida, I really like, and there's a bit of me that says Shida should get in the title picture again, because she held that title during the rough time, the COVID years. And let's be honest, we can criticize the women's booking all we want, but she was probably there in the roughest patch of women's booking. Like, they were lucky that Britt hit when she during that period, because they were doing nothing to help Shida out. And as you've all said, Jamie Hayter, I get superstar in the making for me. I think she is we said earlier about Hook. I think she is a female equivalent of a superstar waiting to happen. I think when she does get elevated, I think it'll be great. I don't feel like this is her time. And I actually lean away from Britt. I think this is going to Toni Storm, because I do think they were going to give Toni Storm the title. I think if it had been her against Rosa, I think it was going to go to Toni. And I don't see them changing that booking now. But I think this one's hard to call, because it has the female Triple H of AEW in it, and it has some solid contenders. Biggest problem for me in this match, though, is how they did the title drop. The short segment where Rosa comes out and announces her injury, it made the women's roster feel less important. It made the title feel less important. And I think it made an interim title feel almost insignificant. And they really, really... And don't get me wrong, Rosa's not the best promo, and she's learning. So would I have put her out there for 10 minutes? No, but I would have at least had it out in the ring and having some sort of discussion, and then the title being, I don't know, kind of relinquished in some way or something like that. But I think they did it dirty, and I think it's made this match seem less significant because of it.
Yeah, it doesn't help it.
It's a shame.
It hasn't helped the build at all, really, on this one. Yeah. With that, as I said, it's obviously there was all the stuff that's been coming out prior to her getting the injury, of claims of her sandbagging and being difficult to work with in the ring and being too snug for certain people, Britt, and them not liking it and crying to Tony about it. That it just stinks to me of like someone throwing their toys out of the pram and basically going, I want my belt back. Which is why I think Britt's going to win it.
Yeah, you might be right. I hope not. I think there's more interesting. I think there's more interesting story to tell with Britt not being champion, and I think a prolonged period of her not being champion and that frustrating her, like that magic she has had where she wins everything. I think she needs a losing streak. I think that will make her character more interesting. Is the honest truth.
Honestly, if you want to do the interesting, I think it is put it on Hater, and you have Britt be happy, but be the jealous friend and go down that route. In the whole Edge and Christian thing, really.
Yeah. And you know, you've got Rebel there as well, who can be more buddy with Jamie once he gets a title. Yeah, I think there's some good stuff you can do with that.
There's potential.
I just hope. You know, where I said that I hope Danielson Jericho doesn't go for a long time. I hope, because of the way they've done this, I do hope they give this match time. If they just again sprint through this, that will hurt, I think, quite badly. You've got 4 people in there. You use the talent, use the time, and give them a showing, because I think you really need to make that interim title feel at least somewhat special at this point, because they've done so much to not make the women's roster feel special at all.
The thing is, you know exactly what's going to happen with this. It stinks of all multi-person matches. The magic one move puts them out for 10 minutes. They don't move so other people can get their shit in. They then get hurt. Oh, they're magically back again. I'm not a fan of triple threats and four ways for that thing. All of a sudden, a move that wouldn't kill you normally magically kills people.
Well, in theory, it should be almost a tag team match, shouldn't it? Because if you follow the story, Baker and Hayter should work together until they can't work together, until one of them wants to win the title. And I imagine they'll lean heavily into that, with Britt kind of almost going, well, come on, we've done our bit. Now's your time to lay down and me to get the title. And I think you'll get that nice tension from that. Before we move on from this match, I just want to point out for the anyone at home who's keeping score on tournaments, let's not forget that's recent tournament winner, Britt Baker, who won the Women's Owen Hart tournament. So there's another tournament we've had in recent times. But yeah, jumping on. Next up, the aforementioned unhappy, potentially Malachi Black and the House of Black, with him, Brody King and Buddy Matthews, taking on Darby Allin, Sting and Miro, which is an interesting trio for me. And an interesting trio that's obviously Darby and Sting have been together for a while. And I do actually really like their pairing. I found it really weird at first, but I've really kind of grown to love it. But Miro in the mix, and I love me some Miro. But it's one of those weird ones where the House of Black are a unit, and Darby Allin and Sting don't like them, and Miro doesn't like them. Smudged together, make a match, and I think it leaves me a little bit. Even though I like all of the competitors in this match leaves me a bit cold. It feels kind of thrown together for me, but I don't know how you guys feel about how we got to this and the actual idea of the match.
This stinks of pre-show. This should be a pre-show match.
Yeah,
because there is. I get that, Miro's come back and they've had this whole thing about the pagans, but there's nothing there that warrants this being a pay-per-view match. The losers of the tournament get chugged into another match just because we need to put them on the pay-per-view. We've already got way too many matches. This is pre-show or a Dynamite match. This ain't a pay-per-view. And
is there any chance that the unhappiness of Malachi Black has got this on the main card?
More than likely.
Potentially. Him kicking off might have, got it booked on the pay-per-view, but with time constraints, when I try and watch this on Monday night, because I'm not staying up to watch it live, I'll fast forward this one because I've got no real interest in it.
I presume you'll listen to the theme tunes though, because House of Black theme tune is great, and but more so, Miro has an amazing theme tune.
No, it's all about.
I love that Redeemer theme tune. I love that. Oh, Darby's as well. Yeah, sorry, I totally forgot about Darby's. My bad. This is a theme tune match, isn't it?
Watch the intro,
Taylor,
catch the end, see how it finishes. Yeah.
How does this match excite you and tickle you, Taylor? At all or not at all?
This is I'm going to skip this match or fast forward it to the end, because as much as I love that, quite frankly, weird mishmash promo of Miro and Sting and Darby Allin on Dynamite, I don't care about the House of Black. There's nothing there. I should like them. They're some big scary bastards who aren't scary at all. They just don't seem to work. Something's just not clicked, and I don't know what it is at all, but it's just not clicking. Sting and Darby are a great combo. Yeah, like I said, when they first together, weird, but it grows on you so fast and you like it. Miro is Miro. You know you're going to get a fantastic match out of the man. The whole Redeemer gimmick is so odd that I really genuinely like it. And the man is intense. He just oozes intensity. But I just don't care about this match at all.
Does it kind of give you any reminders of when we talked about the last pay-per-view and we had it with Death Triangle, and you're going, oh, I like all of the people in this feud, I just don't care about this feud. And there seems to be something, as you say, with the House of Black that just isn't clicking, and it should.
Yeah.
Because it should work, but it's just not clicking for some reason.
If you were to look up what they are, black metal, freaky as fuck, evil, that should be like a win-win for me. But I just don't care.
Oh God, I've just worked it out. They're the Ministry without
Yeah.
Taker. It's Midian and Varuk and Bradshaw. That's what it is.
And Viscera.
Yes.
No, she's Julia Hart. Viscera and Julia Hart are joined together forever.
But that's what
they
it
look
is.
very similar, don't they?
It's when I think about it, it's these guys are stars in the House of Black. They are all stars. I love Tommy End when he was Tommy End. He's fucking awesome. But this combination, this grouping just it doesn't work. And I don't know what it is. Do they need someone else or what? But for some reason, the promo should work and they are visually striking, but uninteresting to listen to.
They need a catalyst of something, don't they? I mean, like for me, and I said Julia Hart. One of the most interesting things I think they did is when Julia Hart, who was already there, turned to them. But of course, everything that we've had up until then is people from outside coming in. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it almost feels like it needs something to make them important to AEW and probably feuding just with other AEW wrestlers. There hasn't been that moment where you go, oh my God, they are truly spooky bastards, or they're going to do something. I mean, what has actually ended up, if you'd have said to me 3-4 months ago, they're going to run a trios tournament, I probably would have had them in the final in my head. Yeah. But you know, they're kind of not even there for that. So, I mean, if I'm going to pick a winner here, I think the House of Black probably need it. I think Malachi Black probably needs it, but I would pick my winner as Alan, Sting, and Miro, and I would have Miro getting the win.
Yeah, if you were going to have Miro and House of Black on the card, I'd have rather had just Miro versus Malachi and just had a straight one-on-one, because at least that makes sense. You know, but as Taylor said, it's one of those with the House of Black, the promos go nowhere. They've not had any storyline that really makes you go, oh, fuck me, these are, you know, actual nasty bastards. If you think back to the Wyatts, they had that whole thing with Cena just being fucking weird. The singing kids choir and the weird child and the fucking surrounding with the sheep mask. It just, I'm not saying steal the fucking Wyatt gimmick and redo it, but there is that sort of shit that they could do. Just have the like random people in the crowd in the fucking pagan masks that, you know, just freaking someone out, or, you know, because the entrance bit, because they do it all the time, the stop black, oh, now they're there, black, now they're there. That's lost all of its fucking aura, because, you know, it's not quick enough for it to be like, oh shit, they're shape-shifting to get to each point in the blackouts. All of it's just seems half-assed or half-baked. It's just not
that sort of stuff.
It's missing something.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff is served better normally post-match, isn't it? And I know, like, here we go, we're almost saying still the Wyatts act, but that's what was so great about the Wyatts, wouldn't it? Like, the match would end, or like, no, it didn't even have to be their match, but then you'd get that kind of, I can't do the noise, but you get that noise, the lights would go out, they come back up, and then they'd absolutely smash someone. And we're not getting that with the House of Black. They are just kind of spooky because when they do their promos, they're in a dark room with smoke and they step backwards and forwards. And yeah, there's something missing there. And I don't think it's talent. I just think there's something. No, you know, like we said about Miro. So those Miro promos, whilst weird, are amazing. Those ones, like where he was just in a totally white room talking to his god. That feels like what the House of Black doesn't have. They don't have that kind of mystique and mysterious part to me. They are just three decent wrestlers being a little bit spooky, but not spooky enough. Bring up the spook for me. Increase the spook.
See, it seems to be a thing where it's either you're the Undertaker or you're Bray Wyatt are the only ones that seem to get spooky to work.
Yeah.
Everyone else just doesn't seem to pull it off.
No. And you said about Tommy End, I mean, like, I think he's just naturally full of charisma, and he feels like he should be able to pretty much. And this feels like the gimmick he wanted to do. So you would hope, and again, maybe we've just been spoilt with people like The Undertaker and people like Wyatt who have managed to live and breathe whichever gimmick they're in. Obviously, for The Undertaker, pretty much the same one, but no transition. Whereas maybe they are just that much better than other people at doing this, and maybe it is harder to pull off than I think, but there's something there, but it's just not quite working.
It just
The winners,
Rob Zombie version of
Halloween. Yeah, who's gonna win? So I know I said I'm gonna go for Miro to win, but who we got for winning this one?
Yeah, Miro.
Yeah, Miro. I think the House of Black need it, but they need to find whatever that missing thing is more than a victory.
Yeah,
because it doesn't matter how much they win, something's not clicking, and until they can fix that, it's never going to work.
Need to take out a champ, maybe. That's something that I would. I mean, I wouldn't be adverse to seeing Malachi Black in a world title match, but again, I think you need to have that moment where they take out a champion. But of course, it's been impossible recently because interim championships and things like that. But yeah, I mean, let's hope. And we said this last time. Let's hope we don't see this match again on another pay-per-view. And I think come next pay-per-view, depending on where they are, I lean to what you said earlier, Lacey. I would like to see probably Malachi Black in a singles match somewhere in a card, and maybe Brody and Buddy in a tag, or maybe them not on the card. But yeah, I think maybe they need to focus on a part of the House of Black now, and possibly Malachi Black. So next, we're back to the women's roster, and we've got the TBS Championship now, and we've got Jade Cargill taking on Athena. It has this match, or has the TBS champion and a TBS Championship been booked better than the main title? Question mark.
It was a few months ago, but not recently. So they did the big thing with Athena turning up, and then since then, isn't it just they send in the baddies, they lose, she switches baddies, and so I don't think Ember's actually even been on Rampage or Dynamite. I think she's just been on Rampage. So if you don't watch that, you miss it.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It should be a decent match. Be quite interesting with the height difference and stuff, and how green Jade is to see what Athena can do with her. But yeah, this has got fuck all build and fuck all actual care or reason for it. But it should be a decent match.
But again, this might be another one where I just go, no, time constraints. I'm probably fast forwarding. And I hate that because I like both competitors in this. I like Jade. Jade is a fantastic look. She's getting better in the mic. Ring work still is getting there slowly. It seems to have got a crawl back a bit, but I don't care. And I feel really bad for saying that because I should. And because I like both competitors, but I just, I mean, that really bugs me because I should like this and I just don't care.
You're right about Cargill though. She's a megastar waiting to happen with her look and her attitude and her and again you were talking about living and breathing the gimmick. I feel like, and probably she isn't. When she's at home, she's probably like lovely and does all the things she does, but she feels like she's the character she's playing. But yeah, that ring work really needs to come up, I think, for her to have any more focus than what effectively for most points for her is squash matches. I don't think this one should be a squash match. I think Athena should be a challenger that takes her to some degree of limit, and I'd like to see Athena get a lot of offense because I think she's the far more talented in ring talent. So lean into that and use that. But I don't see any title change here, and I think there would be, unless they're pushing Jade up to the world title, I think you keep that belt on her, and I don't think you push her up to the world title yet. I don't think this will get long. I don't think this will be a long match either. I hope it's not. I mean, you said it earlier, Chris, and I quite like the baddies, but I like them as talents in ring, and I think later down the line, you've got a bit like with what we had with we were saying with Jamie Hayter and Rebel and Britt. I think you can have those stories where the downtrodden baddies maybe come out on their own at a certain point, but I hope that this isn't all baddie interference. I hope this is Jade and Athena having a match, whatever that may be, and I don't think it will do Jade again any harm being in the ring with people like Athena. Bit of a shame for me with Athena. I actually probably if I'd have brought her in, I probably would have put her into the world title. I think her against Thunder Rosa, and I know it's kind of the same time as Toni Storm, but I think her Thunder Rosa would have been a really interesting face-face feud, and you could have had a really good match at the end of it. But also, going back to what I was saying earlier, I think Jade needs some better talent or some more established talent to start beating. But this feels a little bit kind of Athena could get lost in the shuffle here, like maybe Ruby Soho did after this. But I think I do think she has to take the loss, and I think Jade has to keep the title here.
See, throw this out there. I think Jade would really benefit from a year in NXT being taught by Finlay, because I don't know who they've got doing their training or is working as agents in AEW.
Madison Rain's just been taken on to help the women's roster, hasn't she? That's one of the things she's been taken on to. But to be honest, we said her name earlier. And like whether they do this or not, I would literally have Jade in there with Serena Deeb morning, noon, and night, just going fight. Yeah. But like effectively learn. Now I know she's tall and so she wouldn't wrestle in the style of Deeb, but I think being in the ring with a Deeb would massively help her over and over and again.
Because I just say Finlay because obviously we know what Finlay did with the Four Horsewomen and with Trish and Lita and Victoria and all the Attitude Era girls that could actually wrestle. Finlay has a way to teach and can tell them and teach them what they should do, not how to be the perfect wrestler, but what they should do for their build and their character to how they should be in the ring. And I think she could do with just a year under Finlay's tutelage. I think she'd come back as a fucking proper star and much more better in ring for it.
William Regal, he's there. He could work with him. I mean, to be honest, like he would probably be better placed to help anyone else other than, and I don't imagine he does a lot with Danielson and Moxley behind the scenes at this point. Probably works a lot with Yuta, but you've got Regal there. I don't know whether you guys have done it, but I've been listening to a lot of Regal's podcast, and he talks a lot about his NXT days, and like he said, like it wasn't even his job, but like he'd be there all day, so he'd just be going, anyone want any help, and he would just help people. And I think having people like that can only help people. You said about like Jade as well. I mean, I think the thing that is probably really key to teach someone like Jade is the big money is building up someone to beat her, isn't it? Whenever you get your monster heel and your dominant champion, everyone gets the biggest payday when you finally get the hero that is gonna beat them, and then after that, and then people transition out of Goliath into whatever the next step of their career is, but they're a big name by that point. But I don't know. It's they need ring time, and as I said, I think you're right. She needs a lot of support, but she's got everything else, I think, down. I think it's just that polish and that you want in 2 years' time for her matches to be. You're not going, she better have someone good in the ring with her. You want it to be she has enough about her that you're not worried about her part of the act in the wrestling ring.
Yeah, I mean Jade will win just because
Jade does.
Yeah, Jade wins. And I think the problem is if you do kill her and she loses now, with, as I said, the fact that she needs more time, I don't know what you do with her after it. Yeah. Because you I can't see her chasing.
No,
No, no.
and she can't go face.
No.
Her act is going to be heel for a very long time, isn't it? And then
Yeah.
the crowd will vibe into her. But poor old Athena. But I mean, again, good to see her. Like, good to see her back in the ring. Good to see her on TV. Again, another one done dirty by the Fed. So very good to have her back. And I hope that whatever happens for her post this, and just my last bit on the women's roster, it would be nice to see. And I know we had a little bit with Deeb and Sheila, but it would be nice to actually see some women's feuds that weren't about the TBS Championship or the World Championship, i.e., they were getting some degree of equal screen time to get them. And I know there's lots of matches on Dark and Dark Elevation, which I often tune into, but it would be nice for more featured. And when we're going for a card of 11 matches, for there to be a women's match on there that wasn't for a title, but that people really wanted to see because there was a good, compelling storyline behind it. Speaking of good, compelling storylines, next up, Jack Perry, or Jungle Boy, for those who remember as Jungle Boy, versus Christian Cage. What say you?
I want to say Jungle Boy, but I can see Christian winning this just to carry this on a bit further. But this should really be looked to be finishing now. I know what they're trying to do with Jack, and it's working to some extent. He's getting better. His promos are definitely getting better. He's got a bit more fire to him, but yeah, I think he needs to move on from this and start to be put with bigger names, better talent, to start growing him more.
I think the problem with Jungle Boy, is the gimmick. The gimmick is a proverbial underneath babyface. It doesn't stink of someone that's going to go and be a world champion.
You know what it stinks of? It stinks of Rocky Maivia.
Yeah.
White meat, babyface.
Yeah. And in a tag team is fine. Because with Luchasaurus, the freaky dinosaur guy, and there's that character. You've got the little guy, the big guy, perfect tag team. He takes the kick in, tags in the big guy. Big guy does the hot tag, and then Jungle Boy comes in and gets the win. I can't take him as a singles, even mid card babyface with that gimmick. I think it needs either a complete gimmick change or he has a ceiling that he won't get past.
I think that's what they're trying to do. I think this feud is sort of shifting away from that Jungle Boy gimmick because they're calling him that less. He's being referred to as Jack Perry more. You're seeing a different look. I think the in-ring look needs to change as well. I think we have to move on. Christian's the perfect person to help him grow, but this feud is tepid. I don't think it's as hot as they want it to be, and I think that was proven when he was cutting when Jack Perry was cutting the promo in the ring. The crowd was sort of with him and sort of with it, but they weren't into it fully. It wasn't Mox on the mic, it wasn't Punk on the mic. I mean, that's an unfair comparison to be honest, but you know what I mean. The crowd reaction was, yeah, we're with you, yeah, we get it, we know why you're doing this, but we're not like really going for it.
And it's a shame, isn't it? Because I think Cage's promos were really good.
Yeah.
And you should have got a bigger reaction to Perry's promo. Like, you're right. It would be unfair to compare him to the best promos, but I think enough work had been done that you should have seen a huge crowd reaction, I think, to everything he said, because Cage was a bastard, wasn't he? I mean, like, he's talking about his dead dad and things like that. And I think I think it should have just had a natural groundswell, but it wasn't quite there. I think I'm with you on that. And for him going forward, I think you're right. I think they're leaning away, should I say, from the Jungle Boy. One of the things I've said for a long, long time about him is the dude needs a haircut. And it's a shame because obviously what a bountiful amount of hair. But I think in that image change, I think he needs to transition out of what he has been into something else. possibly a Christian Cage, Edge, that era where they were starting to come out of their tag team and become their own. And there needs to be some change there. I don't think it will happen here, but I'm also tempted by a heel turn for him.
A heel turn could really work for him, for Jungle Boy. But if I think you get a heel turn, my money's on Luchasaurus because they've sort of been pointing it that way.
I kind of like him going with Bastard Cage and them two being together and Luchasaurus being the poor dinosaur that gets left behind. But I don't think they're going that way. But I think it'd be really nice to. You said earlier about Rocky Maivia. I mean, like I know it took a little bit longer, and God, again, talent wise, but let's be honest, when he went heel, people got interested, and I think that might help Jack Perry here. I think give him an edge in this feud, but maybe he goes over the edge and isn't the white meat baby face for a little while, and let him lean into the bastard and maybe learn at the feet of a bastard Christian Cage. But I don't think that's the way they're going to go.
Yeah, with this one, I'd quite like. I don't know how you do it, but I'd like a way of there being that Christian gets the win, and then goes, you either join me and be a cunt, or I fuck you up or something. Luchasaurus comes down to do the same, and he then turns on Luchasaurus.
Yeah.
I
think one of the things that AEW has a little bit of a problem with, and don't get me wrong, I do love the fact that we get great matches on TV as well, but I think because their events are so few and far between, that what you said, Taylor, I don't want this feud to run for another 3 months and get a payoff in 3 months' time. But if there was another pay-per-view or premium live event, whatever we call them these days, in a month's time, I would happily have this match be the thing that gets us to the blow off in a month's time, and possibly that be the heel turn or whatever's going to happen. Whereas I think because that gap's so big, I think you have to do something in this match. And because you have to do something in this match, I don't think they've given themselves enough time or enough to flesh out that heel turn. And I don't see how you give the win to anyone. But if it's carried on, Christian Cage wins. If they're killing it, Perry has to win. Surely he can't lose this match if it's not carrying on. But I think Christian Cage will win, and I think the feud carries on.
I have a horrible feeling you're right.
Yeah.
That or Luchasaurus turns again and goes with Christian.
I think we're all in the mindset someone's going with Christian. We just can't work out who.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think Jungle Boy should go because I think that's what should catapult him and move him on, is to turn heel, to give him that darker edge, to give him a bit more to work with. Yeah, I don't know. It's awkward. I think we know what we'd like to happen, but we just don't know what AEW. It's not like WWE where we can sort of clearly see it. It's
yeah. When they did the Julia Hart stuff, I mean, like she was your blonde-haired, blue-eyed until she got spewed in the face. But yeah, I mean, you could. But again, I think if you're going to go heel, you go heel with him in this, guys. Like Christian's whole stick is. And of course, he's a shitbag heel, so he really doesn't believe what he's saying. But I'm trying to give you that edge. I'm trying to show you the way, and I tried to do this, and I used you. But I don't know. There's just something really compelling to me of him going. Do you know what? You're right, and I can learn a lot from you. But probably not the right time for it at this event. So unless they're continuing this, I don't think we get that. And he's one of their boys, isn't he? He's one of the young boys that they had from the start. So I think they are true. As much as we talk about a bloated roster, I think there are the Jungle Boys, the Darby Allens. That they are still, I think, really invested in these guys being at least a degree of the future. So I hope they've got a plan for him.
What is next?
Next up, we've got your boys, Chris. And I say your boys. I think we all love the FTR, but FTR and Wardlow taking on Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns.
Oh, proper wrestling.
I was stunned.
Why are they in a 6-man, I don't know, but I would love to just have FTR versus Motor City Machine Guns. Just stick that into my veins. I would just be all over that.
You know what this is? This is a tease for that. They're going. This is them going. Do you want this? Which is a dumb question. Of course, we want this. I was so stunned when they announced it was the Motor City Machine Guns. I did a double take. I was like, no. Wow, you really are going that way. It's going to be a great match. The weakest person in there is Wardlow.
And Wardlow knows his shtick. So the thing is, you leave FTR in there to cover the mat, carry the match. He gets the hot tag. Whoever's in there with him gets powerbombed to shit.
Yeah.
FTR Wardlow win.
He has a little showdown with Satnam Singh outside. Big fella. Have a little bit of chicanery there as well, so that Wardlow is getting featured in the match. And I think, I mean, I'm with you, Chris. I would have loved this to have been Motor City Machine Guns FTR. But having said that, I'd want Wardlow on the card. So I don't mind it being smushed into a 6-man to get him on the card.
I'm always happy to see Jay as well.
Oh yeah,
but goddamn, get me FTR Motor City down. And I think the nice thing about this is that Motor City are baby faces generally, and I think there'll be baby faces here, but they're kind of on the hill side of it. And I would like at the culmination of this, because I think Wardlow and FTR are winning this. I think Wardlow will get the pin, probably on Jay Lethal, but I'd also like at some point in this, it's not the Motor City Machine Guns to walk out, but realise that Jay Lethal is a prick in AEW, and that they're the heels, and that maybe we get the honourable Wardlow Motor City Machine Guns match up later, because they get respect from the competition in the ring. But should be a cracking match, because you've got a lot of talented guys in here.
This is one that I hope they don't just shit for time. Which, with how big this card is, I can see it only getting 10 minutes at the most, and I'd want more than that.
You might want more. It depends what they do with those 10 minutes. If they leave you wanting more, great, because in the good way, not that that's it. If they leave you going, shit, that was good, I need more of that. Stick it, get it in my veins, kind of thing. I think the only person that's really in danger here is Wardlow, in the sense that there is a big chance he can get overshadowed. Because as much as we love Wardlow, it's FT friggin' R. These guys are there.
Wardlow just needs to get in and do his shit.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Wardlow isn't going to be in there, isn't going to take a pounding, isn't going to do shit for the Machine Guns and take their tandem offense and things like that, because he just isn't. He literally is going to be in there, power move, probably beat the shit out of the Giant, probably slap Sanjay a bit, power on Symphony at the end. I just want to see FTR and Motor City Machine Guns just throwing down, because just that, and even Jay Lethal in there as well with them too, is just glorious. And
you said it, Taylor, that moment where the video plays and you see it's the Motor City Machine Guns, and I think this is one of the things that I love about AEW, and I hope sort of stays there. And I know sometimes there's complaints thrown at AEW because you kind of go, well, you've got a lot of people on your roster that aren't being used. Why do you get these other people in? This is the place where you get to see dream matches.
Yeah.
And I know they could have just gone and hired Motor City Machine Guns permanently, and maybe they do end up, but we still get to see moments like this regularly, and they're happy to give up time on their card to go, do you know what? I think fans will love this, so let's get these guys in to do this match. And more power to it. I think I'd hate in 4, 5, 6 months time us not to be getting things like this. If one match on the card is put to one side to go, here's someone who's not a permanent roster member but will make this match feel more special, then please keep them coming for me.
Yeah.
So next up we have the Casino Ladder match, which we have Claudio, we have Wheeler Yuta, we have Penta, we have Rey Fenix, we have Rush, we have Andrade, we have Dante Martin, and TBD, the Joker in the match. Do we make guesses at Jokers first, or do we talk about the match first?
See, this stinks of just like who's a free agent that they can just get in and have another name to put on the roster. You've obviously had Big Cass just turn up and be signed.
Not him. Anybody but him.
Do we get Mouthy Shitbag?
Please, no. I hate that man.
But he's soft.
Can't spell, bless him. I don't know. Like, do you know what? Up until today, up until about 2 or 3 hours ago, I had in my head who I thought the Joker was going to be, and I actually thought the Joker was going to win the match. And then I saw a tweet, and I went, "Well, that's out the window." I thought it was going to be Will Ospreay. I thought they'd probably signed him up for one more date. They were going to, or 2 more dates possibly, and stick him in this. And because like him and his New Japan faction like put over Kenny and the Bucks. And I thought he might get one last thing, but he was tweeting today pretty much, "Thanks AEW, lovely ride, may see you again, especially if you shit talk me, Kenny." So I don't think it's going to be him now. So I'm left at a little bit of a quandary. Although the name that always comes into my head these days is Johnny. Johnny Impact, Johnny Wrestling, Johnny whatever, but not Johnny Gargano, but John Morrison. Because I think he's a ladder match guy, and I think they could go, do you know what? He'll get a little bit of a pop. I know we've done it before, but he will do decent in a ladder match like this, and then they'll go, because this match isn't about someone coming in and winning, because I think they've got so many strong acts in this match. Someone from this match who is AEW already, I think, is winning it.
This is a weird match. This is such a weird match.
That logic, can we have RVD
then? You can, but why would you want him?
Because he loves RVD. This is such a weird match, though, when you break it down, because it's essentially all tag teams, almost.
Yes, yeah.
So, the Joker, I mean, you could throw any name out there. Sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not. I'd love it to be Sabre Jr. I don't think it's ever going to friggin' happen, but it'd be tasty. What really bugs me is the person I want to win this is not winning it, and that's Dante Martin. I love Dante Martin. They were pushing him, and then they got gun shy and just shied away. He is an incredible talent, and he's in there with people that he can use that talent with. Just the thought of, quite frankly, a Dante Martin Ray Phoenix match is mouthwatering to me, because those guys just gravity. What's that? I don't care about that. Look what I can do. So, yeah, unless the Joker is something special, which hit and miss with those. I don't know where this is going, especially because this also depends on the world title match as well. Who wins there? So, I think it's pick your favorite and hope.
You look at sort of Claudio. He doesn't need the win here, and arguably, but I don't think he needs the win here. But I think he's going to be a brilliant hand in the match. I think Penta doesn't need the win here. I don't think Phoenix needs the win here, and I don't think Will. I love Roosh, but I don't think he gets the win here. Andrade, I think, could do with the win here, because I think he could do with a run at a world title. Dante, I'm with you. I think he's fantastic, and I think getting him a world title match against anyone in a significant occasion, one that he's earned, I think, again, will help propel him up the card. And Wheeler Yuta is massively interesting from this regard, isn't he? Because regardless who comes out of the world title match, there's an interesting feud stroke match, regardless who it is. Or as you say, TBD. And you're right, there's so many pairings in here. So on paper, the Blackpool Combat Club, they should be working together. Penta and Ray should be, Roosh and Andrade should be, and God, you could even argue like Dante's had his fair share. And I don't know what Darius's health is like at the moment, but like maybe it almost becomes a kind of a tag team thing, or Lee Moriarty goes in, or one of those talented guys who can make the match better. But I think Wheeler Yuta, for me, on paper, has the most interesting outcomes of a title match and is the closest to that next rung of elevation. But I say all that, I think Andrade's going to win it.
It stinks of Andrade winning because he's the only one other than Claudio that is of world title match level. I think it's too soon for Yuta. I think he needs a little bit longer to sort of grow into it. You're never going to give Penta or Ray the world title. They're tag team guys, or at the most, the TNT or Intercontinental, Euro, Transatlantic, half-assed
Mac
title.
Daddy Mac, FTW champion. Yeah.
Same with Dante. Him versus Pac, be a wonderful match. I don't see him, and I get that AEW is a smaller guy roster and a smaller guy company, but still, I don't see him as at that level of world, like being up against the world title.
The thing to bear in mind with these matches is this isn't like Money in the Bank. This isn't them anointing the next. This is just like a showcase more than anything. So,
isn't whoever grabs the brass ring gets a title match? But who?
You get a future world title match, but it's a world title match. It's not like you cash in, like, as you say, like Money in the Bank. It is a match, and that could be a Dynamite match. It could be a pay-per-view match. And I think that's what sometimes
Bulldog win that last time, and he didn't get a world title match, did he?
He got a TNT title match.
Oh, so is it for any title then, or is it actually for
this one specifically says the world, but I think it was TNT last time.
Wasn't it Page last time? 1-1. Was it the Battle Royal? Page came in as a joker in something. I'm sure he got a title shot out of it. But...
And Scorpio Sky did at one point as well, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I'm losing track of my brass rings that people have managed to grab. But yeah, I mean, hopefully it'll be a good match.
There is no doubt this is going to be...
Yeah, you've got all the talents there, haven't you? And they should be able to put on an absolute banger of a ladder match.
I just feel it's missing a base. Because in these sort of matches, the best ones, you have some form of big lad to be the base
Big
for
Cass.
stuff.
The Joker's going to be Luchasaurus.
Well, he's not on the card.
If that
happens... I mean, you could put a big lad in it as your Joker, couldn't you? To have that. But I mean, Claudio's not a small lad, is he? And I think in this match, I think you'll realise how big Claudio actually is. I think he's a big chunky fella. He could be your power man for the match.
Yeah, so it's just missing a base for. See, the fact that I can see Ray and Dante trying to do some weird shit that shouldn't be possible. I feel you need that one person there to be the safety guy to, hold the ladder as they're trying to run up it vertically and flip off and do triple pikes. But as for the winner, I think it will be Andrade, unless the Joker's someone of, a newbie that's come in that's like top tier. But with what we know, I would go young Mr. Flair.
Oh, yeah, forget that. Taylor, who you got winning this one?
I want Dante to win it. I want Dante or Wheeler just because I think we would get, no matter who wins the main event, we would get a fantastic match out of them. Yeah, I think Andrade, because at some point, young Mr. Flair is getting a manager and it's going to be old Mr. Flair. I think we're all just waiting on it.
But as long as he doesn't get back in the ring and, die.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many retirement matches he's had, but a lot too many for me.
Almost as many as Terry Funk, maybe?
No one's that bad.
No.
I didn't mind.
He started retiring at 88.
All right, bet.
I
can see Claudio doing the Funk spot as well. The ladder on the head and this airplane. I can see him doing that.
Yes. Yeah. I think you're probably spot on there. Now, in good news, only 4 more matches to go, boys. So next up, Swerve and Our Glory, the tag team champions, taking on the Acclaimed.
See, I want my boys to win this. I don't think they will, but it just stinks of the Acclaimed finally getting the belts because they are hot as fuck at the minute. I know that Swerve and Keith Lee have only just had the belts because the Bucks wouldn't lose them to the FTR.
Oh God! I knew when we got to this match, this bollocks to start. But yeah, carry on.
But yeah, no, I think the Acclaim have been there and done it enough and deserved it enough that give them the belts. And then obviously you got the rematch, it's an easy one, but you've also then got the easy next feud being the Arse Boys as well. And them two together, decent matches as well. So decent tag matches all around. I want the Arse Boys to win.
I'm sorry, I'm all about the Acclaimed. I think they've done a really good job of building this team and switching this team. And I realized why I like them. And I'm ashamed that it took me so long to realize that the Acclaimed are the New Age Outlaws.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
They literally are the New Age Outlaws.
But
Better
can wrestle
wrestlers
better.
than yes, much better wrestling. But I think, Max Caster on the mic is fantastic. He does a wonderful job. He's great in ring. Bowens as the big man powerhouse is fantastic, and they are reliable in the ring as well. They are a safe pair of hands to have in there, and they will have a solid match. And to be honest, I don't really care for Swerve and Our Glory at all. I find Keith Lee is much more better as a singles. Swerve I don't have much experience with, so then I don't mind if they lose, to be honest.
I'm quite similar to both of you here in the I love the Acclaimed. I want the Acclaimed to be champions. I don't want them to be champions here though. I think there's a better time for them to be champions. I'd like to see them beat the Bucks at some point. And I would want the Acclaimed to be full heel still, but you are right, they are hot. I'd actually much rather this to be the Acclaimed the Arse Boys again on pay-per-view. Of course, then you go, well, where's the tag championship match? And like you were saying there, Taylor, Keith Lee and Swerve, I love both of them as singles wrestlers. I would love them to not be in a tag team right now and them having singles feud somewhere and being off somewhere else. So I kind of want them to drop the titles. I just don't want them to drop the titles to the Acclaimed here. Despite how much I love them, I think their first title win should be bigger. And I think it should be against one of the bigger teams. And as good as Lee and Swerve are, I don't think they're established as a great team. I'm going to say so. Calm down, Chris, before I say it. I want the Acclaim to beat someone like FTR or someone like the Bucks or someone like that for their first title, because I think they're ready to be in that kind of area, a bit under those sort of teams, but I think they need a bigger title win. But I don't see how you don't give it to them, because I think if they don't get it here, it really muddies that heat that they've currently built up and that kind of momentum. And I think it could knock them back far too many steps if they don't, unless it's some shithill chicanery that stops them
Which
from winning
is
it.
quite likely, but
yeah.
But yeah,
I have the out in a way that they can lose, and it keeps everyone's heat up. The Arse Boys fuck them.
Yeah, that is what it's got to be if they're not winning.
Yeah.
And it is strange because it is face versus face, especially with your hot face team in the Acclaim and your lukewarm. Again, Swerve and Glory. I don't want to be mean on because these guys are really good individually. Tag teams just not working. So
it feels similar to what we were saying about the House of Black earlier. We're going, the talent is there, but there's just something not quite clicking with what they're doing in that. And it's not that their promos are bad or anything like that. It's just not. It's not got that wow that I think they could have, or that they could have if they were on their own in singles feuds with other people. I think that would serve them much better.
I just don't think Keith Lee's done it since turning up in AEW.
I think he's been allowed to do it
since. If you go back to his Fed days, once they put him in that fucking tennis skirt when he went up to the main roster, him as hot as he was at the time has just been on a decline, And it was one of those of, oh yeah, Keith Lee's here, and they're like, well, you've done fuck all with him, and you're using a makeshift tag team, and it just seems to be that Swerve's there just because it's Swerve, and they're like, well, it's an easy one to put in with someone he's worked with before. There you go and go. Yeah, I don't. I want the Acclaim to win. I can see them not winning, but at the same point, I want Keith Lee to maybe disappear for a little bit just to do something different because
The
he's
longer
come in with the same at the same level that he was when he was on his decline in the Fed, and it's not.
I know there's that thing of going, don't go back, and all this sort of jazz. But the longer they're a tag team, the less chance I've got of one day of Keith Lee pouncing Adam Cole into Rose Ed again, which is still one of my favourite visuals. And I think that's what we need Keith Lee to be. I think we need him to be singles and doing things like that, because I think that's where he's at his most impressive. And
NXT Keith Lee.
yeah. I think we need to get back to that, and I don't think being in a tag team is it for him. But I think they leave with the title still, but probably through some chicanery.
I mean, if you want to be clever about it, what you do is you have at some point, maybe not this match, but at some point, you have one of them turn heel, and you make it Keith Lee turn heel. You turn Keith Lee into a monster heel because you'd buy it from him. And everyone will expect it to be Swerve.
The only problem with that is his promos. He does speak like a professor, and I don't know if he can do cunt or angry enough.
I don't think he needs to do that. I think you do it. You do him the smart. I am powerful. I am calm. I'm cool. Collected heel. Almost not quite. If you can get him there. Oh, I'm gonna get shot. I'm gonna get flamed for this one. You have him be the sort of Jake the Snake Roberts style heel. It's very calm, cool, collected, never agitated, never angry, but just lays facts out for you and just have him just take people apart.
I'd go very similar. I'd go Hannibal Lecter. I think he's got the voice for it, and I think I'm not saying he says he starts eating people. I'm not going that, but that very much that menace that comes through someone who is smarter than you and puts their things across better than you, and leaning into that. But yeah, I think there's more to come from all of these. I mean, it's a match that I kind of relish with their in-ring, but it's a weird match to be on here for me. It feels not the right match for any of the participants. Potential match and sorry.
As I say, it could still be a decent in-ring match, but as I said, I just don't. So there's not an easy way out for anyone out of this, but there's lots of things that you could do from it.
I'm quite excited to hear what Caster's rap's going to be on them two as well. You know, that's such a part of the act, and I think in a kind of face versus face now, I think this could, again, we talk about on the rise and elevating. I think him coming out and absolutely savagely tearing up two other faces, I think could help them possibly even more than the win would. But maybe they get both. I don't know.
And if I can get a basketball shirt and an American football shirt sometime soon, that would be nice too.
Yeah. Next up, and again we are getting towards the end, and like where it's placed in it's probably a little bit unfair in just the one I'm reading down, because it's a match that, again, I'm not sure whether it should be on this show, but certainly it has a place, and that is Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs.
I'm looking forward to this one. I have turned the corner. I love Ricky Starks. It's kind of funny because he's doing the Rock around about Rock Bottom era, Attitude era, but not. You can see the roots come from it, but he's making it his own, and he's got a charisma and charm to him that I like. I like his ring work. He's definitely got a future. Whether or not he can push it on to the next level and go up, because we were talking earlier about the jungle. I mentioned earlier Jack Perry's promo in the ring where the crowd weren't quite there. He had the similar thing when he was talking about Powerhouse Hobbs, but the audience was slightly more there, so he's got something. It's who do AEW. This just comes down to who AEW want to push for. I think I want Starks to win. I want him to beat Will Hobbs. Will Hobbs is a fantastic big man as well. So it's going to be interesting to see who they want to push out of this to. I want it to be Starks, but I fear it might be Hobbs.
See, I'm opposite. I'm all for Hobbs on this. AEW doesn't have many just killers. Other than Wardlow, who else have you got on that roster that is your big muscle killer?
Hager.
You can't class Hager. He's never been a killer, even when he was.
That's what they try to play him as, but yeah, it doesn't work. All he has to do is open his mouth, and then it all falls apart.
But yeah, no, Hobbs stinks to me of old school, like 80s heels. He stinks of Bad News Brown. He stinks of Doom back in the day. You just let him go, and you give him people to kill for a bit, and you make him dominant, and then you let Ricky get his wing back in 6-8 months' time. You
basically catapult Hobbs, so later on you can do it to Starks.
Yeah, that's what you did. And the thing is, at that point, by then, because Hobbs will be of a higher tier, that loss then doesn't kill Hobbs. And you've then also got someone else that can start smashing through people. Because that, as I said earlier, when we were talking about the other matches and stuff, the one problem AEW has is too many people are there just to get their shit in. And a lot of the matches are, I do my 15 moves, you do your 15 moves. Doesn't matter if they make sense or why they're doing it, but we have to get our shit in. You could have someone like Hobbs, if you let him go and do it, because he looks like he's got it in him, that can just be that guy that just runs through these people. And you can then have him as a base for these other people that have those matches that do their flips and shit. But it not just be a match of, I do my 15 flips, you do your 15 flips. But it makes sense more. And that's what AEW need to bring up. They need to bring more of these people up. And as I said, it ends up being win-win because, as I said, 6 months down the line, Ricky gets his win back and we're all going, oh, fuck, we forgot how great Ricky was. But Hobbs is still there.
That's fair.
My fear for this match and why I said probably shouldn't be on this card is I might fear this match gets lost in this card. There's this many matches, and I don't know whether it's there yet, but this match feels like it should be more important than one of 11 matches. If it was one of 8 matches, I think it might get the time and the attention it deserves. But I look at some of the stuff it's competing with titles and end of tournaments, but even in the one-on-one matches, in theory, I think they've invested a lot more time. It might not have come off better, but a lot more time into Jack Perry versus Christian Cage. And this... And my other big problem with this is I wouldn't be having it now. What you said, I think they're both superstars, potentially. And I think there's a lot that needs to be done to get in there. I would have Ricky Starks as a heel still. I think he is a heel, and he should be for a long time until the crowd are baying for him to turn. But I also wouldn't have Hobbs as a face. So I actually think I'd have kept them together, had them have single stuff, not necessarily as a tag, but had them together and play off them. What you said about charisma and about The Rock, God, this is the bit where I might get destroyed for this. He reminds me of a mixture of The Rock and, I'm going to go with Johnny B. Bad, but what I more mean is the Little Richard elements that Johnny B. Bad really leaned into, because I think he's and that flamboyance that The Rock does integrate in, but I think he is a much more flamboyant version of it. And I think I'd just be building that up. That massively overinflated ego, but partially because you've got this big bastard stood next to you who can kick the shit out of most people.
it's nation rock. That's what you need. You know,
Yeah,
you had
yeah.
Henry, you had D'Lo there.
Yeah.
You had that backup kind of thing. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But it just feels it just feels too soon for me. But of course, once it happens, I think you've just got to almost pick a side and choose at that point, haven't you? Of going, which is the one we want to elevate up the card quicker. But you're right, Chris. I think that the face losing in these confrontations isn't always a bad thing because they can come back for more. But I think whoever wins this is the one that they are more invested in the short term. And I think it's Ricky Starks. I think they're going to have Ricky Starks win this. But either one winning, I think, is good for either one of them. Probably not destroying for the others, but yeah. Hopefully they put in a good match as well, though, because you've got a guy who has a bit more of the speedy side to him and a powerhouse. And who doesn't love those sort of matches? They generally produce fantastic matches for the viewers. But yeah, I think Starks, but it could go either way for me. Toss a coin. But I just wish they weren't doing this yet. And we said about him earlier, when Hook broke away from the group, let's say, and started to go more Danhausen, I think that's your Starks and your powerhouse Hobbs route. You know, get him. They should have turned on Hook, or they should have done stuff with Hook. But we've got.
They had other plans for Hook.
Yeah. Are we ready for the dual main event? Possibly, you could argue.
It shouldn't be dual, but yeah.
No, it's not.
The crowning of a trios champion. So we'll go.
No,
with
you
this
mean
one next.
Kenny and the Young Bucks have the titles? Even I'm with
Kenny and the Young Bucks have their wet dreams so they can, have to have their belts because they're Kenny and the Young Bucks.
Now,
so
it's
Kenny and the Young Bucks versus.
We know it's
TBD.
Dark Order and Hangman Page. It's got to be. That's the way the story is set up. It's very WWE in that respect. It's not going to be the best friends.
It would be very strange if it wasn't, wouldn't it? Like if you didn't go with the Dark Order and Hangman Page against them, I think they would miss a trick. I know best friends have been there since the start, and I know obviously they like Orange, but yes, it is going to be the Elite versus the Dark Order with Hangman Page in the chair. I've got a feeling that maybe others aren't quite as pumped about the concept of this as I am, because I am absolutely pumped about this. I love the idea of a trios title. I think we don't often see it in American companies, and I think with the bloated roster, or not bloated, whatever I think they've had a load of excellent trios since day one that could be used really well with a title in there. So I am very excited about it, and I will never not be excited at the idea of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks being in the ring with whomever they're going to be in the ring with.
Do we let him go now or later? You can see the steam just coming out.
I don't know what you mean. Fuck Omega and fuck the Bucks. Couldn't give two pisses about the match. I won't bother watching it. Don't care. And if a Hangman's in it, I will give even less of a fuck, because fuck him. I don't care about him either. And it's just to feed the egos of, Christian, the God Squad lovers, It is just an ego rub for fucking Kenny and the Bucks. And I don't care.
Taylor, how about you?
Sorry, I don't give monkeys about this either. This was written from day one. The minute the trios title was coming, Omega was coming back. The Bucks and that were going to happen. It all feels like a foregone conclusion. Like I said, we're recording this before Rampage, before the match between Hangman and the Dark Order and the Best Friends. You know how that's going. You know how the main event's going to go. The Elite's back. I can see Hangman maybe not turning and going heel, but going back to the Elite. And I'll be honest, as much as I wanted to like Hangman Adam Page, and he is likable, he's so far the biggest flop as world champion in AEW. He did nothing for anybody, I think. And trios titles, the only trios titles that I used to care about was like Chikara, because they were good. Chikara was great, but that's because Chikara was Chikara. It wasn't this. Trios titles could be interesting. Like you said, they've had a lot of trios that could be, you in theory can have good matches. It's how long are Omega and the Bucks gonna want to hold on to these, because the Bucks can't have the tag team titles, and neither can FTR apparently.
I mean, you mentioned like Hangman and obviously the Dark Order Hangman inclusion in this, and I said that I'm interested in having a trios title. Of course, it was going to be Kenny and the Bucks that win it because they waited for that. And I'll get back to egos in a minute and all that jazz. But I quite like the Hangman inclusion because I think there's a long-term story, isn't there? There's connectivity between that. And I think having him in there increases that interest level for me to see what they do. And I think you're right. I don't think he rejoins the Elite at the end of this, but I think it adds extra strings to that story. And I think there's something for the Dark Order here as well. I think
after they've been so badly gutted.
Well, and that's the thing. If this is the death knell of them, at least they're going to go out with something, and then hopefully, like Silver and Reynolds, having been in this, they can go on to whatever's next. If it's not the Dark Order, so I think there's something in that. I know you hate them, Chris, but I don't think this is ego. I think this is something that they want. They have a large stake in the company. And they want this, and I think they want it because I think they want to use it for something. I don't think this is about feathering their nest. I think this is about going, we want this, and at a point we want to drop the trios titles to someone. So I don't think it's quite as egregious or bad, but I don't see, unless you were going for a swerve kind of thing, I don't think there's, as much as I think there's a lot of good trios in there, I don't think there's a single trio in that company that should have that title before the Bucks and Omega, because whatever your feelings are on them, the Bucks are one of the best tag teams in the world, and Omega is one of the best wrestlers in the world. So that makes sense that as a trio, they would win those titles for me.
Jim Cornette, your response?
Yeah.
Fuck Twinkle Toes McFingerbang. No,
I just think
I can't fucking stand them. The Bucks are the biggest problem with the Spot Monkey matches. Of the two matches that we've had so far for them to get to the final have been, we must get all our shit in, even though they don't.
I loved the one I think United Empire. I thought that's fantastic.
And the thing is,
I absolutely loved it.
You love, and because you like.
Oh no! Just to clarify, I love wrestling, and that is a style of wrestling. I don't always watch them, and I don't always love those matches, but I don't hate those matches. I accept that. That's I don't like sort of the death matches and stuff like that as much. Like that's probably where I struggle, but I still appreciate a good one, and I think this is part of wrestling now. And I think quite often it's just dismissed as going, this is not what wrestling is. It is what wrestling is because it's in this company. It's a major part of it. But I don't love them exclusively. I love all sorts of matches, but I don't dismiss these matches because I think sometimes they are great. There's something different. It's the same thing for me as the difference between watching a horror movie and an action movie. Like, I want different things from them, and this brings me a different style of match. And I love what they do. I love the athleticism of it. And does that lead to some kind of continuity and logic problems around why would someone just stand there and wait for them to do their finisher? But it does something, and it invokes a reaction with me because I think it's very impressive what they do. And if I'm honest, I prefer the Bucks when they're not against. So one of my hopes from this match is that like Silver and Reynolds bring something to it, because like I like the Bucks when they're against teams that aren't so high flyer, because I like that juxtaposition of, here we go, we're going to jump everywhere, we're going to do our finishes, we're going to do Meltzer drivers against, like, let's say an FTR, where they're going to be a lot more old school sort of bastard tag pole drivers and things like that. But I can't dismiss that style because I don't like that style, because I think even if I didn't like that style, I think they're the best at it.
It's just not for me. I can't fucking stand them, and the fact that every match is pretty much the fucking same. You know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to do all their fucking silly little spots. They're going to get super kick party and the knees to each other's heads and the flip-de-doo pile driver just to get their 7
I
stars
will.
from Meltzer. And
I do want to agree with you. I do. I think you're right. I think they do get their shit in every time, and it's the same. I would throw back at that is there ain't many wrestlers that don't get their shit in every time. It's just that theirs is a bit more flamboyant and athletic. John Cena had 5 moves for his whole career. Bret Hart had 5 moves for most of his career. This is what wrestlers do. You just don't like the way they do it, I think, is the honest truth, which is fine. That's fine. But I don't think it's a criticism you can throw at them. Now, other people might construct better and better psychological matches, but they are just doing what every wrestler does, is get their shit in.
You can say that Bret had his 5 moves of doom, but Bret's 5 moves of doom was the end bit, and there would have been a well-crafted match that wasn't the same for every fucking match.
A lot of them were. A lot of them were. And they were great. They were great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, again, like, he was an amazing technician, and it depends on who he with. But a lot of those matches were the same. They were the same format every time. That is unfortunately what a lot of wrestling is matches are follow a very similar format. But when you get someone like a Bryan Danielson in or someone like that, they'll get their shit in and they'll get the same stuff. But they are brilliant, and they will maybe see something a bit more expansive. But I think probably if I'm being honest, 70% of wrestlers are doing exactly the same as the Bucks. They just might do it as power moves. They might do it as they're slower. They might be submission ones. I personally think it's an unfair criticism. I think saying I don't like it, that's fine. But I think a lot of stuff's levied at them, which is what other people are doing. You just don't like the style of how they do it.
Just don't like them. And it's not for me. And as I said, I will just fast forward it. And Kenny's another one. I don't get the hype. I don't see what's so great about it.
Okay, I'm going to interject here because, we've had this a lot, but is it me or is Kenny looking knackered now?
Yeah.
He is looking.
I think that stuff where he sort of said about how hard he's found it to come back. I mean, he might be playing into the angle, but no, I think you look at him and you go, yeah, he isn't the person he was, is he? And I wonder how long we'll have Kenny for. I think this could be a farewell tour.
Yeah, I think it could be. I just, what loses an interest for me is it's predictable. I in my head, I know this is going to the books and that, and so therefore I lose the interest. Yeah. So again, I blow hot and cold on the books. Sometimes, I'll really enjoy a match, and other times I'll be like, oh god, it's them again. I'm just going to skip on. So I'm sort of I'm stuck in between you two guys. I don't particularly love them. I don't particularly hate them.
That's why I positioned the cameras like this, so you could ref when we got to this point. You can just chop down the middle and go, shut up, it's one match, get on with it. Yeah.
Literally, we have where are you? Hang on, I'm trying to do this, but we have Meltzer on one side, we have Cornette on the other, but
Yes.
People will be
shall
happy.
we? Yeah, I was gonna say, shall we go to the main event?
Yes.
And the real main event, which is the champion, Jon Moxley, against the challenger, CM Punk.
In what the fuck news? What the fuck happened on that episode of Dynamite? What the hell? What's going on?
I don't know.
Because, look, Punk is notoriously difficult, shall we put nicely. So I can believe him. Yeah. Shawn Michaels without the charm, perhaps. But, yeah, I was not expecting that to happen on Dynamite. I mean, it was big that they announced a title match on Dynamite, the whole thing. And then to have essentially a squash in favor of Moxley, to only then the week after flip it around and have Punk go, no, I am going to fight, and to go to this. It's weird booking. It's weird storytelling. I don't know if it's because of background stuff, behind the scenes stuff, or whether this is the plan. If it's the plan, it's weird, but not in the good sense. It's the kind of plan that goes, I'm scratching my head here. What's going on? So it's going to be a great match if it's a match. If we don't do the squash again, if it's those two going at it, they're going to knock Seven Sages shit out of each other, and it should be entertaining as all hell. But the build-up is very weird.
Yeah. I don't get it because I was like, if he was selling the foot as an angle, would it not have been the one that he kicked with that he'd have gone down with? And then, yeah, the match was just like, that's done. Okay.
It
Did
almost
he
felt like that match was done
overcome?
for shock value.
Yeah. And then for this week, for the throwing a contract down, going anyone that wants to have one, Ace Steel then slapping Punk to go, no, you can do this. For then that automatic, then he's an arsehole wanting paying for blood. I'm like, I genuinely don't get any of it. I
Can
don't.
can I chuck in my vote for the hat trick of I don't get it? I
Okay.
don't get it. I'm with all of you on this. I don't get it.
I've been watching wrestling since '89, and I've seen some weird shit.
We watched WCW.
That
yes, yeah.
had
I saw Judy Bagwell on a pole, and I don't get this.
I saw Viagra on a pole and Judy Bagwell on a forklift.
I saw David Arquette win the title. Sod it.
Yes, yeah, I'm with you.
I saw Vince Russo go full Russo and give himself the belt.
The weird thing about it is we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what's going on, and obviously you kind of got all these rumors that bubble along with it. Now, my gut says that this is more about someone. Let's go with Tony Khan thinking, wouldn't it be great to get Punk winning the title in Chicago on a pay-per-view? And maybe, but probably not this one, because I think Punk returning to fight champion against interim champion on the pay-per-view would have been compelling enough and a worthy main event. And I think what you said there, Taylor, I think that was for shock. The problem is that to have him go down injured to the point where he can't compete in that match, but we're doing wrestling logic here, and wrestling logic tells us that if someone sells an injury, they're out for a while. This is the match is signed a week later, and effectively it's happening 10 days later, and unless they're going to spend a lot of this match selling that he's still injured, I don't really want to see that. I'd rather see what you described, the knocking 10 bells of shite out of each other match that I think we could get here. I don't want to see Punk injured and be the underdog babyface, except for if that was the angle from the start. So go back maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, he comes back and says, like, he's not ready, and I don't know, like Mox kind of goes, what's your problem? Like, fight me, a bit like Kingston did with him, something akin to that, and that built to it. But having this title change and the injury angle so close to the pay-per-view, I just find it so odd, and I don't get it. I think maybe they think that Punk will just get this massive heroes win, and he probably will because it's in Chicago if he wins. But I don't think you needed this. I think it's an extra wrinkle which makes it odd, and it makes the story feel like there's not a story. Like we just threw some shit together at the last minute. And if anything, I think I'd have rather, although it's leaving money behind, I'd have rather if they were doing that title change a week ago, that it was Moxley against someone else in the main event here. And when they put that contract in the ring, that someone else picked up that contract. I know who I'd want it to be, but that's a story for another day. But not Punk, because I think if you're going to have him lose so quickly because he hurt himself again, he wasn't ready to come back. Leave him off for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and have that journey back. You know, the guy who lost the title unfairly because he was injured, have him come back. But yeah, I don't know, just weird. I don't like it. I don't like it.
And the thing is, if Punk wins, just to get the fucking Chicago pop, you could have done that anyway with the title versus title one, because if he wins, Chicago's going to lose their shit.
Well, you know, you have that argument we talked earlier about interim champions. You actually have Moxley say and Punk say in the build up to it, you're not the real champion, I am. Like, Moxley can just go, you were so weak, you broke yourself. You're not a real champ. And then, but because there is, and it's a unification, then yes, you get that title win. So yeah, I don't get it unless there's something else going to happen. And that's where I think we might be going with this. I think there's more to this than just Punk winning.
I think it's
or
a Punk heel
Moxley
turn.
winning.
I think we're going to get a Punk heel turn because one, the way he carries on sometimes in the ring, he's a bastard.
Yeah.
He is absolutely. He's not wrong in what he says. It's how he says it. You go, oh, fucking hell, that's low. And Punk, I think, works better as a heel. The guy just clicks as a heel, so much better than he does as a face. People love him, but make him that heel, they'll love to hate him even more because you know he can go in the ring. You know he's one of the best on the mic that there is. I think he's better than Mox. I don't get the Mox thing. I'm sorry, I really don't. I don't think he's a bad performer or anything. It doesn't click with me.
Yeah.
So the only thing I can think of, unless it has got to be that Punk heel turn, where again he can just boot up that level. Because once you turn him heel, the amount of people he can face again that can chase and can do a good chase would work spectacularly. But again, it's Punk. Punk's a weird one where people just love him, and I don't think it matters what you do. But again, it's the Bryant thing. Bryant's a heel, but people love him. I think
The thing is,
Punk.
With Punk, if you look back at some of his heel runs, you look back at that run up to the Taker match at Mania, the Straight Edge Society stuff, the summer of Punk when he was at fucking ROH. He, even when the hardcore fans love him, he can make them even fucking hate him and not like what he's doing. So if you are going to turn him heel, you can't start it in Chicago. That's a little bit too much of a fucking... Because as we've seen every time they go to Chicago and Punk's there, that place loses its shit. I don't think you can turn him there. I mean, you can turn him and you can make him a super heel. I just don't think anything that he can do to Moxley will make them boo him against Moxley.
I think I don't think they're going for that Chicago crowd to boo him. I think they want that Chicago crowd to cheer him. It's the Brett and Sean thing, the Canada US thing. I think that's what they're trying to pull off. I think they're trying to go for that. Chicago fucking loves this guy, but he's the Chicago way. He's an ass. He's slimy. I mean, you look at the rundown he did of Mox, which was fantastic. The rundown was because he's not even the best guy in that team. He's not, he slagged off his best mate as well. We're not talking the Adam Page thing that was unscripted that he got in trouble for. Well, yeah, that was
that was a go back at Adam Page for being a dick towards Punk.
Yeah, but I think
you still do it in the right way, didn't you? You don't air your dirty laundry in the ring, do you? Which I'm a Punk lover, but that's poor. I thought that was poor on his part.
But that's what I think they're going for. Let him be the hero in Chicago, but he can still be the hero in Chicago and be a fucking villain. Because we know when Punk's a villain, he's better than anything. He's untouchable when it comes to him being
that word villain. I think is the great word to use, and like we talk about this quite a lot, Lacey, on the comic book one. Is the best villains are ones where they're at least part way right, aren't they? And I think that's what Punk does so well as a heel. Is that a lot of what he's saying is right. It's just maybe the way he's going about it and the way he's portraying it. And yeah, I think he's a fantastic heel, and I think he should be a heel. I don't know. My problem with them turning him heel is there's so much about what happened. Go back to where we started on this of going, I don't get it. I don't get this injury thing, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then to go heel straight afterwards. I guess unless in the match he hurts himself again and then has to go to heel stuff all the way through. But I don't know. But I think there's more to this. I think there's a story they're going to tell on the night, and I hope it's interesting, and I hope it doesn't get in the way of the match either. I do hope they have a good match, but weird how they got here, and I think they could have got here a very easier and better way. Have we all got Punk to win, or is anyone going for Mox to win?
I think Punk wins. It's Chicago. I think Punk wins.
Well.
See, I hope Punk wins, but with what we've had so far in this, I wouldn't be surprised if Moxley won.
Okay, is there an argument for Punk not winning? Like for Punk not winning and not winning in Chicago, and that being the catalyst for his heel turn going forward. You know, he goes into full-on slime Punk because he wasn't good enough to win in Chicago against him. I guess that's an avenue. It's not one I'd go down, but it's an avenue they could use, isn't it? And give Mox the title still.
I think if you do that, though, Mox has got to fuck him over somehow. And not in a dastardly heel way, but like a stray fucking shot with like the belt, or you know, one of the Blackpool Combat Club come down and distract him or something like that. Not a blatant cheat, but something that, because as we said, when Punk goes heel, there's always that nugget of something that he's justified for it.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, he's got to have that nugget of justification to then go full cunt on him.
One of the things... Sorry.
I just don't know how you do it.
One of the things I wondered coming out of this match, and sometimes it is the way to look at it, of going, if either one of them wins, which one of them's going to, what's next for them? And I don't know whether I see necessarily the compelling next feud for either of them. You know, we were saying earlier about the ladder match, and I don't think that will necessarily be a big feud, but it could be something. But I probably see a lot more interesting opponents for Moxley in there than I do Punk. I don't see a lot of the people in that ladder match pairing up with him, and I don't know. And like in my dream would be like you transition into Punk Danielson, but I think Danielson, Jericho, Garcia story's got a lot more legs in it. So there's a part of me that wonders whether it's Moxley, just because I don't know what Punk does next once this match is out of the way if he's champion. Whereas if he's not champion, I think there's a lot of story to tell with him. But yeah, I don't know. But I'm still going for Punk. Chicago, innit?
I just had the idea.
Is it the idea that I'm dreaming of, but I don't want to say out loud?
That a certain ring wearer fucks him.
Yeah. As I say, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to say it out loud because I don't want to curse it. But that's been praying in the back of my mind. Yes, thank you, Taylor, for the Danhausen curse. Brilliant. That would be my dream. If we're gonna have this match, gonna have it is that this is where my boy comes back and either costs Punk or gets Punk the win even, but then makes out that Punk's beholden. But I would love to see him return here. I don't know whether that's on the cards though, but that would be my dream. But I feel like we may have ruined the chance of it happening by even invoking it out loud.
Yeah, we don't want to invoke it because if you say it out loud, it might not happen. It's a good shout. It is a good shout. I mean, who knows? It's been quiet on that front fairly. Well, I don't think anything's, so maybe they've sorted something out. Maybe they haven't. Who knows?
Or it is, in the AEW way of doing these, who hasn't been seen for a while other than our
That
boy
person.
that, is due back. So Adam Cole
Baby
should turn up. Gallows and Anderson might turn up. They're still probably on the payroll somewhere.
If this card wasn't 8 hours long already, I would argue that you do Punk Moxley, Punk wins, MJF comes out, and the condition for him staying and signing a new contract was a title match, and he's having it right then and there, and MJF wins in Chicago over Punk for the title. But I don't think you do it because, one, I don't even know whether MJF is conducive to doing this stuff, and this card's too long for something like that. But I mean, don't forget, at All Out, we tend to get some big things happen, but this card just feels too. No, I was going to say stacked, too long for something that big to happen. But my God, like we had last year, didn't we? We had the Adam Cole, and there was more than this, but that bit at the end with the Adam Cole debut, then into the Danielson. I don't want a debut from someone this year because I don't think there's anyone out there. The only thing that could probably make me mark out as much as that did last year is MJF returning, and I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. But who knows?
So
That's full armchair booking on that one. But
yeah.
But I match wise, I think it's got to be Punk at Chicago. But then again, like I said, this build up to this main event, it smacks of bad Fed booking almost.
Yes.
As I was saying to you a couple of weeks ago, we were 3 weeks away from the pay per view, and the only match that we knew that was happening at the pay per view was the tournament final. And you can't. You have 3 months between pay per views, and you can't book or announce matches until like 2 to 3 weeks before the actual show.
Coming into this week, it was a 3-match card, and now it's a 14-match card. And I know some of them naturally had a transition into it because they were ongoing feuds. But yeah, the latter build to this has felt quite bad Fed-esque. And I hate to say it about it because I do think there's a lot of good matches on here and there will be a lot of good in-ring stuff. But yeah, I think this has been one of the weaker builds to an AEW pay-per-view I think I've experienced so far. But they've still got so much talent on the roster that I think we'll get some great matches out of it.
Yeah, I think there are definite matches that can be skipped for me because this is going to go 6 hours easily. And, after a day at work, because I ain't staying up to watch it, to find 6 hours to watch it ain't happening. So
this is a couple of days for us, isn't it? Those of us that don't stay up to watch, we are taking it's going to take till Wednesday to get this thing watched.
I said before you dialed on, Taylor, that I am going to try and go the lunacy route, and I'm going to try and watch it and then probably have a shower and go to work because I think the time this finishes will be the time that I would be getting out of bed to go to work. So, but I'm going to try, but I think I'll fail. So when you see a message from us on like Twitter, sort of saying, "Oh yeah, it's just about to start," and then you don't hear from me for another day, it's because I fell asleep at that point and didn't see any of it yet.
The trouble is, this is the other problem with the AEW. Sometimes when they go bad, they tend to go bad in the worst ways the Fed does. So, over long pay-per-views, I know there's bigger gaps between, but pay-per-views being longer than 4 hours is always an issue. I think 4 hours is a max time limit. When you go push beyond that, it's hard. Not just for those watching at home, but those in the crowd as well. Because remember, one of the things that makes a pay-per-view is the crowd. And once the crowd gets tired, you lose momentum, you lose energy, and that is an issue.
Ooh, and one of the things that makes AEW is the crowd, isn't it? Like the crowd support they have for acts that probably wouldn't have necessarily got support elsewhere. But yeah, what you don't want is by the time you get to the main event, your crowd totally burnt out because it does impact, doesn't it? We went through the era of no crowds at wrestling, and it was really weird to watch. And you don't want that when you've got a crowd. You don't want the pin drop silence, especially when people are doing some great stuff in the ring, but they're just burnt out. But yeah, I'm with you. I think they need to shorten. I would push for more regular events, but not as long. I think like half of this card you could have split into another one and just had some bigger top end matches, and I think that you'd have got a lot more satisfying conclusions to these feuds.
Not everything needs to be on pay-per-view.
Well, I think they do a decent job of that. I think they do a lot of TV matches and a lot of TV events, but I do think, and maybe this is just my old school mentality, I do like my payoff for a feud to be an event rather than TV. I kind of grew up that way, and I like it. Doesn't mean it's right, but I love that kind of rotational way of doing it still.
The thing is, if you think though, if you go back to old school way, you had a Saturday night main event or you had a Clash of the Champions as a touchstone TV show, and they do these with these, like the one that's coming up in the tennis stadium and what is it?
The Arthur Ashe,
and like these named shows that they do as big TV weeks, a Ricky Starks Hobbs or a fucking Miro Sting Derby House of Black could have quite easily just been on one of them. They don't need to be on a pay-per-view.
You're right. That last one really does feel like a TV main event, doesn't it? That rather than a pay-per-view match. But as I say, I'm just indoctrinated to wanting my feuds to be built up on TV and end at a pay-per-view. But the model's not there really. So like I need to, I guess, get with modern day, or maybe they need to get with modern day. But yeah, I'd be pushing for a pay-per-view every 6 weeks and them to be shorter. But you know, God, I promise I'll shut up in a second. But things like the women's roster, I think that's where you get more important women's matches on pay-per-view cards, because they're not having to fight their way onto a 14-match card already with a men's roster that have like more performers and things like that. Whereas if you have these shorter but more regular, you can spend 4 to 5 weeks of TV building up. When we had Deeb Shida, and I think they over-egged it by having so many matches on TV, but actually you could have, I think that would have been more effective if you had that build over 5 weeks, pay off at the pay-per-view. And if you really want to and you think it's good enough, you don't get the payoff at the pay-per-view because the heel wins and it goes into another one. But that's what I'd like to get them to do. And I think TV specials can work. The problem I think AEW has is that it's a different world. They're not Saturday night main events. They're not Clash of the Champions. They are shows that are called specials because HBO's House of Dragons show are sponsoring it. And that's not a special. That's a advertising campaign. Whereas Arthur Ashe ones are special, like, you know, those sort of things, when there is something riding on it. But I think they'd need a fixed TV special that would happen regularly as well. But now just more pay-per-views, bring them on.
They need to double it up. They need to go to at least 6. If they don't want to do the Feds once a month, go to 6. So that's half the year. You can build up. You can do much more. Again, then we lose the stacked cards because the cards are bloated, and bloated cards are hard to watch. This is why WrestleMania is 2 nights now, and it's better.
Yes.
It's sort of better for it. You don't know how the match is going to play out, but that split helps. Because, again, impetus, energy is lost. Matches that should get cheered aren't cheered because the one before it drained the energy, whether because it was good or it was bad. It all plays in, but again, I still think this is AEW finding their way but I think they have to learn their lessons the hard way. There isn't an easy way to do it anymore. You have to learn the lessons by trying something. It doesn't work. Oh, right, we don't do that again. In theory.
Yeah, it's one of the things of obviously doing wrestling 20 years ago and going through like the 2001, 2002 pay-per-views where stuff's 2.5 hours, 2:45. They are perfect length shows because you can do them in one sitting and they don't drag and they leave you going, ooh, I could do in that a bit more. Whereas, you know, this can, when you look at it and go, oh, because obviously on the Monday morning I'll look at the file size and be like, oh, 7 hours. And you're just there at that sort of that level of going, oh, I've got to try and do this because it is such a barrier to go in. It was like, I remember the Mania before the end times and going in, because I didn't watch it the night because I was working the next morning, and turning on the network and going 7.5 hours. Yeah, I'm not going to bother.
No.
Yeah, I think that's where tapped out.
That was that was probably the worst one for me. And there've been worse matches and worse cards, but yeah, I think mix a card that isn't so great with a massive long time, and it's dangerous. Where, as I say, at least with AEW, I'm getting a load of very talented people, and I think the in-ring will be good come what may, no matter how they've kind of got there to book to it. But yeah, I'd advocate something different, and possibly, and this is something that I'd say for most wrestling companies is cut the pre-shows, or like if you're going to have the 20-minute bloody advertising bollocks where people just talk about the matches.
Bring back Todd Pettingale. Oh wait, they did.
Yeah,
and it was excellent.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like whacking extra feuds and matches into pre-shows. So we've got 11 matches on the main card, 3 on the 3 on the pre-show. 11 matches is too many already. I don't want to sit through another 3 beforehand, even though there are matches I like the look of. But all in all, I do. We'll talk about it once the event has happened, and as ever, I hope that it's bloody good. And I am, other than burnout during it, I am more inclined to think that they'll probably put on a good show come what may. Will it be brilliant? I don't know. I think this one might fit into the average to good range, but I hope that they get the booking right and the in-ring right, so that when I have finished watching it and I am sat there at my desk half an hour after it finishes at work trying to stay awake, that the buzz off the back end of this might actually keep me awake for at least 10 minutes before someone else turns up and can take over from me.
Yeah, we want to leave the event in a positive frame of mind. Going, okay, you pulled that off. There's some interesting stuff here. I want to know we need to know what happens next. That's what they should be aiming for.
Yeah, and whenever people who know me find out that I like wrestling, a lot of people, after the obvious, you do realise it's fake question where you just go, no, I didn't. Of course I didn't. But people often say, what do you like about it? And I go, it's the storytelling. And the thing that gets me coming back is the story never ends. Some characters will move on, they'll change, they'll even change companies. But at the end of All Out, I want to tune into Dynamite next week, and I want to tune into stuff after that, because stuff that happens in here makes me want to see what happens next.
Yeah, so the thing is what we're all there for, is we want to enjoy it. Hopefully, as you say, it delivers and isn't as much of a struggle as it could potentially be with the length and the amount of matches. So we will reconvene post the pay-per-view to go over it, and any thoughts that come out of it, or any major shocks, and whether we thought the second coming of Jesus was amazing. And
is that are you saying MJF confirmed when you say that?
I'm not saying anything.
Oh, okay.
Because we don't want to look bad in part 2 of this when we actually have to face up to the fact we guessed everything wrong, probably.
Yeah. It's what we dream will happen, not what we think will happen necessarily.
We're good at everyone's good at armchair booking. Only Tony Khan has the pencil.
True.
So as always, YouTube things: like, subscribe, ring bells,
like, comment, and subscribe.
Just pre the pay-per-view. That's the one. That's why I normally have the boy around, because he remembers all that stuff.
He's good at that stuff, isn't he?
He knows it all. So yeah, comments obviously if you have your predictions for the show. Obviously on the channel, if you like to see me and Sed talk about music and stuff, watch our reactions videos.
They never invite me.
Well,
yet. We were talking about guest artists, weren't we? On reactions and on the comic stash as well.
Yeah, because you can't see my comic book collection, but it's fairly large.
Yeah. But that's our crap. I was going to say, what about you, Taylor? Like, what's going on in your channel?
Okay, you can find me over on my YouTube channel, Taylor Nova, or you can find me streaming on Twitch, doing retro games. I'm just falling in love with playing retro games at the minute. Currently trying to go through Tomb Raider. Had an squirrel moment and ended up playing The Lion King. And when I tell you that game is stupidly hard, believe me, that game is stupidly hard. To the point where I have said I am going to beat that on stream. I may go crazy.
Yeah, I got that for the other half, because there was that one on the Switch with that and Aladdin. Japanese water torture would have been a more fun experience.
Lacey, that's the easy version with pause and rewind. I'm playing the original release that doesn't have that. I'm a fool, but I am going to beat it. I'm going to. If I can spend 30 hours playing Tomb Raider 2 and finally beat it after it drove me nuts, I'm beating The Lion King. Please don't take 30 hours.
And they were kids' games.
Yes. Yes, that's the stupid thing. However, the plus point was playing Aladdin, which I hadn't played before, and my God, that game is fantastic.
It was
again,
I remember loving it.
Hard.
It's great.
Yes, this is the thing I'm learning. Mega Drive games, SNES games, hard.
Yeah.
Very hard. Even to the point where I treated myself and bought, and you will enjoy this, the Disney I think it's the Disney Saturday Afternoon collection. So DuckTales, Chippendales Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Chippendale 2, which I've never played. I think DuckTales 2, which I've never played. So yeah, I look forward to that. And I am currently saving because there's a certain Cowabunga collection that's come out that I want.
Oh yeah.
The Turtles and arcade games and hours and empty pockets.
No, what I want is to play that fucking NES game. The first NES game that was so stupidly fucking hard where turtles could drown and die by seaweed. What the fuck? I'm beating that. Sorry. I have issues. I'm trans, of course I have issues, but that one, that Turtles game, it vexes me. It tasks me. I will chase you.
And I think what a perfect advert there for coming along and watching you, because you go, well, there's retro games and really bloody hard ones, and they might destroy you as a human being. And who doesn't want to see all those things rolled into one ball?
And occasionally I play Dead by Daylight to relax.
Yes, yeah.
That's like me trying to play, Football Manager, thinking that that's a good thing after a day in the office where staring at spreadsheets.
See, I have a hard day at the factory. I go and hang people on hooks because it's fun.
I just shout at my under 18 team to do better.
I just shout at a screen telling you and Midge to continue when we play our network save. That's how I spend my evenings. Going, what are you doing? What's taking so long? Continue.
So Midge, you mean you were waiting for, because it was never me.
It's always Midge.
Well, no, I will say, and again, this is going way off topic. You do like to play all your friendly matches. Only psychopaths play their friendly matches on that. That's what the assistant manager is for. Then you get to the season, then you can play your matches.
In this one, I turned off playing friendlies because I know it vexed you so much.
It did.
Look
Thank
on the
you.
bright
That's
side.
why I love you. That's why I love you.
You've never experienced the joy of trying to play Left 4 Dead with Midge. Those games are legendary for him just fucking off and leaving you.
Sounds like the sort of thing I'd do, because I am like that on any action game. I am, well, other people are going to be far more competent. So you guys do the killing and stuff, and I'll go and get all the loot that is around. I'll do that as my part of the work. But,
So what you're saying is, you guys go off and be the meat shields while I take all the cool stuff.
I'm glad you saw through my ruse. Sounds like there's an online gaming session waiting to happen here, because you sound like you're quite happy to do that. You're quite happy to be my meat shield. That'd be lovely.
And on those sort of games, I just run in, shoot some shit, and go, "Oh fuck, I don't know what I'm doing."
And
Shoot
solo
everything.
Run at the stormtroopers, shoot twice, then run away. That sort of thing.
Yeah. I need a bigger gun.
Yeah.
So we will be back at some point during the week with our review of the show. And until then, goodbye.